Welcome to the opening week of baseball, presented by Burger King. They drew over $3 million a year ago to Miller Park. They're expected to do that again in 2012. It's opening day for the Brewers, and they draw the reigning world champion Cardinals. And along with Al Raboski and Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin, and welcome to Cardinals baseball. And Al, obviously, a lot of excitement with this team this year.
No doubt about it. This team really likes their new manager. This team had a great spring training, led the National League in victories, and what a near-perfect game they played Wednesday night. I think everyone associated with the ball club is very excited.
And that means Mike Matheny, the new manager. With more on that, let's send it downstairs in the dugout. And Rick Horton. Rick?
Thanks, Dan. Plenty of excitement down here in the Cardinals dugout, and a lot of that excitement has to do with the new manager, Mike Matheny. Off to a good start in Game 1 in Miami. Matheny actually a bit of a homecoming here. Spent 8 years in the minor leagues and then in the big leagues with the Milwaukee Brewers. He's at the helm, the 49th manager in the history of the Cardinals, and we look forward to a great weekend series here at Miller Park. Our starting pitcher here this afternoon is Jaime Garcia. Had a great year last year. We'll have more on the left-hander when we come back.
Familiar jersey of number 45, Bob Gibson, and tailgaters outside Miller Park where the roof is closed. Mid-40s outside, comfortable inside, and sold out as Mike Matheny makes his return to the team that gave him his professional start in baseball. Along with Rick Horton, Al Raboski, I'm Dan McLaughlin, and away we go. 150 games starting now on Fox Sports Midwest. And the first pitch is a strike by Yovani Gallardo, who was 17-10 a year ago, had over 200 strikeouts, and in many categories he was their best pitcher. Racal coming off a 3-hit night in Miami, and the 0-1 pitch to him. And Rick, what can we expect from Gallardo today?
Gallardo's a strikeout pitcher, 3 years in a row, 200 plus. He has not pitched well against St. Louis, however. Of all the clubs in the National League, St. Louis gives him the most trouble, and a lot of that trouble has come via the long ball.
Here's a 1-1 pitch to Racal, and now Mike Matheny giving Racal a shot of confidence by putting him in that leadoff spot in Game 1, doing so here in Game 2. It was a rough spring for Rafael Racal.
Yeah, we all know it was a rough spring, but they liked his last week of at-bats. And it paid off, putting him in a leadoff spot on Wednesday night as he got 3 hits. And remember, when he came over at the All-Star break from the Dodgers, he was a big addition, particularly with the long ball against these Milwaukee Brewers.
50 games with the Cardinals. He had 255, and he had 7 home runs. Did Racal. Here comes a 2-2 pitch by Gallardo. And instead, time is called. Our home plate umpire today, it is a veteran crew, and that's Angel Hernandez calling the balls and strikes.
Same crew that was in Miami.
Racal signed a 2-year extension with the Cardinals. And shortstop has been a position of a lot of turnover last handful of years for St. Louis. 3-2 is hit to short. This is Gonzalez deep in the hole and makes the play. They really feel that Gonzalez at short will shore up any defensive flaws that they had at the end of last season. Let's take a look at the lineup for the world champions of 2011. For Cal, you just saw him. Then Beltran, Holiday, and Berkman. Freeze, Molina, Jay, Descalso, and the pitcher Jaime Garcia.
3 switch hitters in the lineup. That gives Mike Matheny some flexibility on how he handles lefty-righty switches late in the game. Also 3 left-handers against Gallardo to go along with the switch hitters.
Here's Carlos Beltran. Last season, 22 home runs as he knocked in 84. Split time with the Mets and San Francisco.
He was durable last season, and that's what the Cardinals are hopeful, as they do have some age in this ball club, and if they can avoid the injuries, it should be another banner year.
Right now, no Schumacher, no Alan Craig. Both those players start on the DL. It was really down to Chambers and Komatsu, Robinson and Carpenter for that bench, and what Mike Matheny was looking for back infield spots, also outfield spots. And Chambers was sent down.
And knowing Mike Matheny, as we all do, think about how hard that must have been for him. Very first time having to send players back to the minor leagues and tell them, you know what, you're not going to be on this ball club. You know, he's a guy that feels deeply and certainly excited about his role here, but that's one of the hard parts of this game. And he's really, guys, learning as we go. He has no experience managing at the big league level or at any level. Last pitch out from Gallardo.
You can see the off-speed pitch way out in front.
Misses on the inside corner. 1-out walk to Beltran. And let's take a look at the defense presented by Dobbs for Milwaukee. This is a team that struggled defensively, especially late in the season and in the playoffs. Left side of the infield is different with Ramirez and Gonzalez. Right side, Gamble replaces fielder. Jonathan Lucroy is behind the plate and Gallardo on the mound. The Brewers defense is presented by Dobbs. Here's Matt Holliday. Had a tough opening night in Miami.
I don't think he quite agreed with the strike zone
Right.
of Ed Rapuano, our third base umpire, this afternoon. And I think he had good reason to not agree with it.
Here's a 1-0 pitch. 2 balls and no strikes. And you guys being former pitchers can understand being amped up, in particular on opening day. And Al, those emotions sometimes get the best of you. Maybe that's happening right now with Gallardo.
Well, this is his third time he's taken the ball. That ties a franchise record on opening day. He is a veteran, but yet he's only 26 years of age.
2-1.
And you'll see what you're talking about, Dan, on the breaking ball especially. If you're a little amped up and you're maybe trying to overthrow a pitch, it tends to be that pitch. He's missed low with a couple of off-speed pitches already. And what he doesn't want to do is the opposite. That's not finish a pitch and hang it to a guy like Matt Holliday.
Lance Berkman on deck, and here's a 2-1 pitch to Holliday. Runner goes. Throw down to second. Beltran is safe in his first steal of the year. This is a point of emphasis for the Cardinals under Mike Matheny. They want to run, and with no Pujols in this lineup, where many times they sat back and just waited for the big bopper to come up, Mike Matheny has told all of us he wants to be aggressive this year.
And I love it. You know, sometimes you're going to get burned, other times it's going to lead to runs, but I just enjoy that aggressive attitude, and trust me, the players do too.
The next to Matt Holliday. Taken for a ball, back-to-back walks, and it brings in Lance Berkman. The super slow-mo camera brought to you by Plaza Tire Service all season long. So after getting for Kyle, it's back-to-back walks, and Gallardo is asking for trouble here in the first.
It's a nice formula on Wednesday night before the starting pitcher. Kyle Loesch took the mound. He had a 2-0 lead. Let's hopefully they can duplicate that, maybe even pile on.
Berkman on the first pitch, pops it up. Behind home plate, foul territory, playable. Lucroy has it, and there's 2 away. Last time that we saw Milwaukee, 173 days ago. Game 6 of the National League Championship Series. Jason Mott getting the final out. St. Louis, Texas, and a memorable World Series.
And no team likes to have the visiting team celebrate on your field, and that's exactly what happened. And Cardinals returning to the scene of the crime, and what a series that was. Brewers did have a very good year last year. They won 96 games, but were not able to beat the Cardinals, and of course we know what happened in the series that followed.
50 total bases in the postseason for this man, David Freese. And he has been very good in his career. 2-out RBI base hits. 2 outs here. Runners at first and second.
He's also been very good at driving in runs in his first plate appearance of a game. David really wants to stay healthy, get 600 plus at bats, and then just see where those numbers are. We all think will be very happy if he can stay healthy.
And Freese hits it out to center field. Gomez back and with room right in front of the track, and he makes the catch. The Cardinals strand 2. Jaime Garcia, his first start of the season when we come back. Home opener for the Milwaukee Brewers, and they were fantastic a year ago here at Miller Park, the best record at home in Major League Baseball. Let's take a look at their lineup. Weeks, Gomez, and Braun. Then Ramirez, Hart, Gonzalez, Gamel, Lucroy, and the pitcher Gallardo. Jaime Garcia was a 13-game winner a season ago, Al.
Well, he backed up his rookie season, winning 13 games again. Jaime has pitched so well at home, the road has been a problem for him. And you just hope he is not distracted by the opening day activities. Schedule is a little bit, flexible.
A look at the defense behind Jaime today with Holiday, Jay, and Beltran in the outfield. On the left side of the infield, Freese in for Kyle Descalso. Another start at second. Berkman at first behind the plate. The Gold Glover, the best in baseball, Yadier Molina.
You want your best defense up the middle, and that's exactly what the Cardinals have. For Call, becoming the everyday shortstop last year towards the end, probably did as much as anything else to get the Cardinals on a roll.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. And Rafael Furcal did not make an error in postseason play. He was a part of 11 double plays, which tied him with Keith Hernandez back in '82 for the most double plays, being a part of the most double plays in postseason play in Cardinals history. Here's Ricky Weeks, lines it into center field for a base hit. He missed considerable time a year ago. He had a gruesome ankle injury, and now back healthy. They expect big things from Ricky Weeks.
Very aggressive, Al, and he's got a lot of power. You have to be careful with it.
Absolutely. You see that ball just hits it off the end of the bat, but it was elevated a bit, and that's the one key for Garcia. If he keeps the ball down, tremendous movement on all of his pitches. You get the ball up, it straightens out.
Here's Carlos Gomez, very good defensive player. Struggles a bit offensively, especially against right-handers, but with the lefty going today, Gomez is in their lineup, showing bunt here in the first and looks at a ball.
And replaces one of Cardinal fans' favorites.
T-Plush?
Or whatever alter ego he has
He's got
today.
about 4 or 5 of them.
Exactly.
I think he's toned down a little bit or so, I've been told.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
It's early, though, Al.
That's ripped fair down into the corner. Weeks on his way to third. They'll wave him in. He will score. Gomez on his way to third, in with a triple.
Gomez did not have a good year with the bat last year. Getting an opportunity to bat in the second spot. This ball in the corner a long time. Holiday booted it around a little bit, but still wouldn't have had a chance to get the Speedy Weeks at the plate. And this crowd loves Ryan Braun.
Chance of MVP for Braun. Lines it to short and caught by Furcal. Well, so far, Garcia not fooling anybody.
Balls up a little bit. As we said, he's pitched so well at home. He struggles on the road, and there's really no reason for that. But he's the kind of guy that, as you see home against Milwaukee, 2-1, the good ERA. He almost threw a no-hitter against him last year and a 2-hit shutout. But then the 8+ ERA on the road. Those are things, there's no rhyme or reason for that.
Ramirez to third. Freese thought about going to home. Instead, he gets the sure out, and just like that, it's 2-0. I thought David was going to go to the plate.
I think he might have had an opportunity. He's got a good strong arm, a good jump off of third by Gomez. He's going on contact. There's the ball hit on the ground. Freese has the ball now. I think if he thinks and reacts quicker, almost as if that ball ate him up just a little bit and he was kind of back on his heels, and by the time he got into a throwing position, felt like, you know, I probably don't have the right grip on the ball. Al, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, I thought he laid back on it. If he was aggressive and took a step in, kind of how the in-between hop, and so, as you said, he played back on the ball, then he kind of got that hop, threw his timing off, didn't have the footwork to go to the plate. You have to get one, and so, you know, you could lead to a big inning if you don't get the man at the home plate.
At the plate now, Corey Hart spent a good portion of last season as their leadoff hitter. Did not have much of a spring because of surgery on his knee.
2 games.
That's it.
And they were the ones in Arizona to finish out spring training, and did swing the bat fairly well, hit a home run last game he played, but only 2 games of spring training.
And it's a walk by Garcia. His first that he's issued. And it brings in Alex Gonzalez.
They're really looking for consistency from Gonzalez at shortstop, and he had also a very good spring. Led their ball club with 6 home runs.
We talked to the folks of the Atlanta Braves in spring training, Al, and they were kind of sorry to see him go. They thought that he was going to sign a big contract elsewhere, and when he signed here, they all felt, wow, we could have spent that money to keep him with us, because his glove is extremely important in the middle of the infield. He's a so-so hitter, an average hitter, a veteran guy, but his glove is very, very good.
And of course, they went with the youngster, Pasternicki, who got his first big league hit yesterday, a triple. And then they had the other kid, the Latin American player that they were raving about, that almost tried to take the job away from Pasternicki.
And a breaking ball is in there for a strike.
Simmons, I think, is his last name.
Andrelton Simmons had played A ball the year before, but
Correct.
he was pushing Pasternicki.
All right, now you just hope that Jaime can get the final out here and then just kind of settle down, and that'd be it.
Nice block by Yadier Molina. Gonzalez, if you're wondering, only 12 errors with the Braves last year. And they talked about overall improving their team defense. You might remember in the NLCS, they had 7 errors in game 5 and 6 combined. So they have transformed their defense a little bit, as Mike Matheny saw one of his veterans, Berkman, coming over to visit with Garcia.
Good changeup from Garcia. Really a bread and butter pitch for him, Al. You talk about his good movement down and away, but when he can pull the string on that changeup and get the hitter out front, I think that makes him a better pitcher.
Oh, no doubt about it. But even with Carpenter and Wainwright, J.R. Miller was saying again, he has the best stuff on the staff.
Both of our pitchers today, very talented pitchers with some big league experience, even though they're 25, 26 years of age, both born in Mexico, and both getting the start here on opening day, and it is a festive atmosphere here.
And a 2-2 pitch. Taken a little bit low. All began 2 nights ago with Kyle Loesch setting the tone for very good pitching, and most hitters will tell you, because they come from the warm weather and then all of a sudden having to hit in the cold, that the pitchers first week or 2 will have the advantage. Start of the season. Runner off with the pitch, the 3-2, and a swing and a miss. So a strikeout for Garcia. Brewers grab an early lead. Molina greeted by a chorus of boos. Here in Milwaukee, he'll lead it off, top of the second. Along with Rick Horton and Al Raboski, I'm Dan McLaughlin. First of 150 regular season games right here on Fox Sports Midwest. Yadier is locked up long term for St. Louis. And the pitch is driven into deep right field. Hart is back, looks up, and it's gone. It's a home run opposite field. Yadier Molina.
He looks in so much better shape. He's really taken more of a leadership role. Had his best offensive year last season, and he just looks like he's primed to be carried that much more, Ricky.
And a lot of boos when he was introduced here in Milwaukee, and they're going to boo him some more now. This pitch up and away. We mentioned Gallardo has problems with the home run ball, especially here in Milwaukee. This is a hitter's ballpark. The ball carries very well here. Talking to Mark McGuire earlier, he said he wished he'd have played a lot more games in this ballpark. Not that he needed the extra carry, but that ball really flew out to right center field.
Talking with Mark, too, he said you've got to be ready for the first fastball you see in the strike zone. And I think Molina was.
Remember last year there was a lot of talk of the shadows that would come into play, especially in St. Louis with those Saturday day games. That's a little bit of a concern with day baseball here. And you can see the sunshine is on the hitters and home plate. The pitcher, he is in the shade. That does become a factor in this ballpark. Slowly hit left side. Ramirez makes the play. The Cardinals are pleased to offer fan-friendly values throughout this season. If you're looking for ways to save some cash or find a great value at the ballpark, make sure to check out the Fan Value Corner at cardinals.com/values. That's the double play combo. Hunter Family Sundays, North Star Ice Cream Sundays, all at cardinals.com. Here's Daniel Descalso. And he picks up a base hit into right.
No problem with the shadows there.
One out hit. It brings in Garcia.
You know, guys, I find this to be a pretty dark ballpark in general. I think when we go around the National League, we look at ballparks, and it just seems to be not very well lit. Now, it is on the playing surface, perhaps, but you add the shadow issue, and you do add problems for the batters at the plate.
It has been, in talking with the players before the game, a ballpark that a lot of the guys will say it does have that dark feel. That the seats are colored dark, the roof is covered, the field, and so you don't have the sunshine coming through except for the windows to our right.
Not quite like the neon green that they experienced in Miami. But you just kind of look at it. It does look dark, particularly away from the playing surface.
Garcia looks at a strike.
And Dan, what happens a lot of times, visiting teams really don't get acclimated to a ballpark like this till about game 4, and you rarely play a 4-game series.
And we will have day games this weekend here in Milwaukee, and tomorrow great matchup. Wainwright returns against Zach Greinke, and Greinke was fabulous a year ago at home. He was undefeated with 11 wins for Milwaukee. And the bunt is down by Garcia. 2 away, and Descalso represents the tying run at second. Our Toyota keys to the season. This is a big one. When you look at these 5 guys and what they need to do, well, you need to get healthy and stay healthy. Berkman, Beltran, Freese, Wainwright, and Carpenter.
When your key players are older and aging or have injury issues, it makes you very vulnerable. So the Cardinals, I think, appreciate and trust their bench, but you want them playing every day. That's an entirely different story. I think really it's true of a lot of teams in the National League Central that the key to them staying healthy is a big deal. Ricky Weeks here has been on the disabled list 5 times in 6 years. The Brewers can't win without him playing every day.
You know, every year we talk about health. That may be a little more important with the Cardinals, where core group are a little bit older, but it's also the David Freeses, also the Alan Craigs, along with the Garcias and all the young pitchers. But you know, the one thing that I thought Matheny allowed him to do, because a lot of guys had little nagging injuries in spring training, wanted to get them healthy, so he gave an awful lot of playing time to the young players. And believe me, they all appreciated that to a man. And they can't wait to play for Mike Matheny.
1 ball, 1 strike on for Kyle. He's 0 for 1. Grounded out sharply to short. Milwaukee, a franchise record 96 wins last year. First division title and playoff win as members of the National League. They defeated the Diamondbacks in the division series.
And remember, they are the reigning Central Division champions. Cardinals World Series, but they were the wild card. And Ryan Braun said this is a better ball club right now than we had last year.
Saying that minus Prince Fielder. Slowly hit to the right side. Weeks is there, and for Kyle is 0 for 2. Yadier Molina gets the Cardinals on the board with a solo home run. Opposite way. Midway through 2. 2-1 Brewers. The replacement this year for Prince Fielder steps in, and that's Matt Gamble against Garcia. Gamble has played just 2 big league games at first base. And this is a player that a lot of people around baseball have been high on, but it's taken him a long time to get to the big leagues.
It was about 3 years ago we first saw him in a September call-up. He was supposed to be their third baseman of the future, and then Casey McGee kind of took that job away from him. Casey's with Pittsburgh now, and Gamble goes over to first base. But in one sense, he is the replacement. In another sense, it's Ramirez.
3-1 the count. Gamble had 28 home runs at AAA Nashville a year ago. Really struggled, though, against left-handed pitching. He's out of options and now asked to replace Fielder at first. It's a fly ball into right center. The ball carries a bit to John Jay for out number 1.
The Brewers are really going to need production after Braun in their lineup. It's a key to their season. We mentioned the health of Ricky Weeks, but I also think they're going to need to have somebody protect Ryan Braun. Prince Fielder did that as well as could possibly be done. And of course, the Cardinals have the same issue of trying to protect their bats in the middle of the lineup with no Albert Pujols.
And the question then for Ron Renneke, who apparently will be offered a contract extension along with some members of the front office that was talked about prior to today's first pitch. But a big question for them is how will Braun be pitched to this year? You know, missing that protection behind him in the lineup.
Now, I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before. He was only intentionally passed twice. So that's the protection that Prince Fielder provided for him. How many people remember how many years we were looking for protection in front and behind for Albert Pujols?
1-1 pitch to Jonathan Lucroy. Fouls it back in the hole, 1-2. 12 home runs, hit .265 last year. He started 114 games. As you get a look at the World Series champions patch on the uniform of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Can't wait to see the uniform on opening day where they have gold piping, you know, kind of going around the birds in the bat and everything else, I believe.
I think the players would all say, Al, they love the patches, but I think they play for the rings just a little bit more.
And how about the ring ceremony? Second game of the year. Just happened to be against the Cubs.
Short hop at second, and Descalso makes the play. Two veterans asked to protect in their lineup, Carlos Beltran and Aramis Ramirez, and what they've done, their career totals. By the way, to take it a step further with Ramirez, this is a guy that basically has played a full season against the Cardinals in his career. 159 games against St. Louis as you get a look at Carlos. And Ramirez has 28 home runs, over 100 RBIs, and over a 300 average. And of course, the majority of that spent with Chicago.
Yeah, he's always hit the Cardinals well. He's been a big RBI guy. And the guy with the bat right here can swing it a little bit. Even though he's a pitcher, Giovanni Gallardo has the ability to go deep, and so you have to be careful with him if you're Jaime Garcia. You can't just lay one right down central.
9 career home runs. You know, over a 200 batting average. That's outstanding for a pitcher. So you're absolutely right.
2010 Silver Slugger Award winner for pitchers in the National League. Those 9 home runs, the most of any pitcher in franchise history for Milwaukee. Good portion of their history, though, was spent in the American League.
That's his 15th year or so in the National League now.
2-2 pitch. Popped up to the right side. Berkman is over near the crowd and playable and puts it away. Garcia 1-2-3 inning. Beltran, Holiday, and Berkman coming up. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Bud Light Lime. The sure sign of a good time. Here we go. By your Mid-America Chevy dealers. Chevy, the #1 selling brand in St. Louis. Find us at stlchevy.com. By Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 for quality tires and expert auto service. And by Steak and Shake, just no equal. Roof is closed this afternoon. It's the home opener for the Brewers here at Miller Park as Beltran takes a ball low. I asked him, is it Beltran or Beltran? He said Carlos Beltran. 1-0 pitch. 2-0. You look at this lineup in trying to replace a guy like Albert Pujols. Beltran, Holiday, and Berkman all were in the top 10 of on-base percentage a year ago.
That means he understands the strike zone, not afraid to walk. And when a guy has a knowledge of the strike zone and power, that's a lethal combination, and that's what Beltran has been.
And it was nice to see Beltran steal a base.
We're practicing, Dan.
Yes, we are.
Swinging away on 3-0. Hits a high, towering drive right field, and this ball is gone. We're tied up. They turned him loose on 3-0, and it's 2-2.
And 22 home runs a year ago. And now that that knee is healthier, indication was the steal. Times he's going to be, playing a little center field, which he didn't do last year, but he can hit. And that's when you can hit that ball up there, the top of the strike zone, and then hit it out. It just shows you that he is an outstanding talent. Former Gold Glove winner and All-Star again last year.
Lined into left center field, and the Cardinals have the lead. Matt Holliday as Beltran and Holiday go back-to-back, and it's 3-2 Redbirds. 3 solo home runs.
There we are, depending on the home run again. But
you see it as a trending problem?
Oh, yeah, it's a big problem.
Well, the problem that Gallardo has, and we have talked about that trend, and that is not keeping the ball in the ballpark against the Cardinals. That pitch is down, and Holiday went down to get it. Cardinals showing their muscle here at Miller Park and kind of silenced this crowd a bit.
Yeah, that breaking ball there, but it's still too high when it's above the knees, because you get to see that arc coming down on it. Nice job of hitting.
Berkman looks at a strike. Popped out first time up. 36 years of age. The 6-time All-Star Lance Berkman. 31 home runs. Drove in 94 a year ago.
Can't emphasize enough how much of an upgrade, or just his personality in that clubhouse, or relax things.
And he moves to a position where he says he upgrades the team defensively, because he moves from a position that he says, look, I'm an okay defender in right field. I could play the position, but when I'm at first, defensively, I'm a much better player defensively in that part of the diamond.
And he really is a full player. Not only has he been a good defensive first baseman, he also knows the strike zone very well. Has a very high on-base percentage in his career, and has provided the leadership you're talking about. And he's the kind of leader, Al, that's not going to be afraid to have Matt Holliday step up and lead along with him. And I think that's what makes him kind of unique. He's not a kind of an arrogant guy at all. He'd be the opposite of that. But he just wants to win, and I think he enjoyed being a Cardinal last year from beginning to end.
No doubt about it, but I almost look at this as almost a throwback ball club where Mike Matheny, the youngest manager in the game today, but he's got these these core guys that he's going to have them, help police the younger players.
Here's David Freese.
Or when Tony La Russa was at the helm, it's Tony's ball club. This is a collective group. I think Mike has encouraged these guys to take a more active leadership role. He's delegated a lot of responsibility to his coaching staff. They learned under Tony. They know what it's like to be a professional and how to do things the right way. They're not going to take advantage of maybe a little looser reins. I think these guys will respond.
Check swing and a strike on Freese. Fly to center first time up with 2 runners on. That ended the top of the first. The Brewers jumped out to a 2-0 lead. Just joining us, and the shadows coming into play, obviously. Cardinals have come back with 3 solo home runs. Yanked down the left field line. How about another home run? Yes! The 4th of the afternoon. David Freese. This time it's a 2-run shot. 4 home runs for the Cardinals. And 3 in this inning.
David Freese has holes. You can pitch and get him out, but if you make mistakes, he's going to make you pay. Kind of what we call a cripples hitter. Guy that hits in certain offensive, when the count favors himself. Because of his ability to drive the ball to the opposite field, he stays on the ball a lot longer. He hits that way. But if you make mistakes like that and it's on the inner part of the plate, he can jump on it and hit it out of left field. People do not have fastball command today, and so they will make plenty of mistakes up and in the middle in the plate.
For some who may have been concerned about whether or not there's life after Albert, Cardinals showing their muscle here this afternoon. 4 home runs.
Cardinals had back-to-back home runs to start the inning with Beltran and Holiday. Last time they've gone back-to-back-to-back was in 2002. That was Marrero, Edmonds, and Pujols when we were in Denver to face the Rockies. Gallardo, for as good as he's been overall in his career, for whatever reason has really struggled against St. Louis. 1-7 with a 5.66 ERA in 11 career starts.
And the one win he had was a shutout at Busch Stadium last season. But you're right. For whatever reason, the Cardinals just, jumping.
And that's a walk, and this is turning into a tough opening day assignment for Gallardo, and the fans, you can already hear some boos.
It's 4 home runs and 4 walks. And a strikeout pitcher with no Ks.
Little activity in the Brewers bullpen. Bullpen was a strong point for this Brewers club a year ago.
Really, Rick, the entire pitching staff was, because this rotation is back. They're intact from a year ago. Last year, the top 5 made all but 7 starts.
There was some concern about Sean Markham in spring training. He has had kind of chronic shoulder issues, but really nothing different than he's dealt with before, and he seems to be ready to go. And you're right, the starting rotation was solid. Expect them to be again, but they were really good in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning too in that bullpen.
And now they have K-Rod Rodriguez for a full season, and they got a very good, now would comes a setup guy in the 7th inning, Veras. Axelrod was the National League Fireman of the Year a year ago, or closer. Axford.
Cardinals with 5 hits today, 4 home runs. John Jay, first time up, grounded out to third. Gallardo last year was 17-10. 26 years of age and the first Brewer to notch 200 strikeouts 3 consecutive years. He made 33 starts over 200 innings, 207 Ks.
He's looking for his first strikeout today. He doesn't have one. He does not have that put away pitch right now. And really, you got to kick him while he's down. You can't let him get back on track again. You have a 3-run lead, but the Brewers have a decent lineup. So you've just got to keep piling on and get him out as soon as possible, Al. Get into the bullpen, and perhaps that'll set things up for the rest of the weekend.
Talked about his victory at Busch Stadium last year. It was a special one. 8 innings, only 1 hit allowed. Yeah, 4 walks and 6 Ks, but he was awfully good that afternoon. He got a lot of guys to chase pitches out of the strike zone.
2-1 is a fly ball that's hit out to left. Braun backs up to make the catch. Some were questioning why Gallardo with the opening day assignment and not Zach Greinke. And Ron Renneke said, we're going with a guy who has been through our system. We're going to be loyal to him, and it's a special assignment, opening day. And we're going with Yovani Gallardo.
I like that sentiment.
They don't know where Greinke's going to end up. He's a potential free agent after the season. They do know Gallardo's going to be back with him next year. And Greinke, who is very interested observer to the Matt Cain signing, the largest contract for a right-handed pitcher.
This is Descalso. He does not have an agent at this point, does Zach Greinke?
He does now.
So it has changed.
He's reunited with his former Casey Close, former agent. But when he was representing himself last season, he told ownership that my client is pretty good.
Nice.
Can't argue with that.
No.
Gallardo's just searching right now. You can just sense that he has no rhythm, taking a lot of time between pitches, does not really look comfortable on the mound. He's a little fidgety.
Al, I always enjoy how you like to watch pitchers pitch inside. We have not seen him do that at all here today. He was throwing over with Molina at first, so it gives you an idea that maybe he's just not very confident right now with his stuff.
No, he's crossed up his catcher a couple times. You know, one time there was a sign to throw over. He threw home. So, I mean, all the body language is coming out there is like, this is not the way I envision this game. Now, look at there. You see how Lucroy catches that ball because he's expecting a different pitch. So he kind of, you know, he looks awkward, but that was because he's expecting something else. And it gets, you know, it's not a healthy feeling for a catcher.
2-2 the count on Descalso. Here we are, another game, and not a start for Tyler Green. And the Cardinals would love to see Green, you know, run away with that second base spot, but that's not the case. Right-handers on the mound, so Descalso gets that start.
With Descalso, you certainly get very good defensive play.
You bet.
But it is interesting because Tyler Green was all but anointed the Cardinals' second baseman and hasn't started the first 2 games. And you may say, well, it's because it's a lefty-righty thing. Well, if he's not going to play against righties, he's not going to play very much because most pitchers are right-handed. So if it's a platoon situation, at least at this point, Descalso's the second baseman in my view.
And one of the reasons why they would like to see Tyler take hold of that is because of he has some additional qualities over Descalso, mainly speed, the ability to steal bases.
Strikeout of Daniel. And for Gallardo, that is his first of the afternoon. Blues are back in the playoffs, and you could go to a game with the Fox Sports Midwest girls. Like the girls on Facebook for a chance to go to a game with Amy or Kayla. And if you already like their Facebook page, click on the Go to the Playoffs tab to enter. Head to Facebook now for your chance to head to the playoffs.
By the way, I got a nice little text from Chris Kerber, broadcast team for the Blues, and wishing us good luck, and we want to return the favor and wish the Blues good luck in the playoffs.
How fun have they been? Outstanding season. They've been a blast to watch.
I don't want to do any more double days, so start winning, guys.
Here's the 0-1 pitch.
Wanted to mention, of course, it's a special day, Good Friday, to a lot of folks, but it's also a special day. A couple of birthday wishes. Tyrus Sissel celebrating a birthday today, and one Drew Horton, my son.
All right.
Turning 22 today. So happy birthday to Drew.
1 ball and 2 strikes on Jaime Garcia. Cardinals lead it 5-2 here in the top of the 3rd.
Can't make a mistake to Jaime either. He can hurt you.
Last time we saw Jaime Garcia was in the World Series. Made 5 postseason starts and 2 in the Fall Classic. As Al mentioned, numbers at home very, very good a season ago.
That's way too good a swing at a 1-2 pitch for a pitcher.
That's why I said, when you watch him in batting practice, you watch him swing a little bit, he is, he's got the potential.
Hit a home run in this ballpark a year ago.
It's his only career home run.
Back-to-back strikeouts, but back-to-back home runs in this inning. Matter of fact, there was 3 of them. On 3-0, Beltran. Holiday went down to get one. David Freese yanked it out of the ballpark. It's 5-2. Let's take a look at our first bank. First take. It's opening weekend 2012. And David Freese has been red hot, even going back to last season, Al.
Oh, the MVP of the National League Championships. He did it again in the World Series. So you can see since the championship where they won against the Milwaukee, 15 games, 462 average, and another home run earlier today as he hits a 2-run shot. 4 home runs by the Cardinals today, 3 solo shots, and David put that 2-run. He's already got 4 RBIs in the young season.
Top of the lineup, and Ricky Weeks as he takes a strike, and Garcia looked to be efficient last inning as opposed to what we saw in the first.
It's one thing we've seen with him too is if you're going to find any kind of chink in his armor, you'd say it's he does not adjust very well. If he's going well, he goes well. But if things start to unravel, he doesn't have a quick route to plan B. But today he's getting that opportunity. 2 runs early. Seemed to make an adjustment in that 2nd inning, and we'll see if he can continue with that. And of course you rely on your pitching coach, your catcher, your bullpen coach, all of their inputs to get you back on track.
A lot of little things that Jaime's working on and making progress, but one is when things go a little out of whack, and sometimes gets mentally out of whack and just complicates the situation. So it was good to see after the rough first inning to bounce back and retired 4 in a row.
Game of adjustments, isn't it?
Most definitely. He just has unbelievable physical ability. The ball moves and every pitch he throws when he keeps it down. Sometimes he's a little too hard on himself.
Crowd has been taken out of this game in a 2-2 pitch. Tapped foul. '57 wins at home last year, the best in baseball. I mentioned during the pregame show, first time their payroll will be at or over $100 million. They had the 6th highest jump in payroll in baseball, and that's even with losing Prince Fielder.
That's hard to believe, isn't it? And I think when this current ownership took over, they only had $27 million payroll.
That's correct. That was back in 05, and a strikeout of Ricky Weeks, and strikeout number 2 for Garcia.
Weeks doesn't like this call. We'll see if it was down or not. Garcia, bottom of the strike zone.
Cutter.
Angel Hernandez says yes.
Too close to take. And Jaime threw a quality pitch right there and got to hit the ball to get on base.
And there's a strike to Carlos Gomez. RBI triple his first time up. That gave Milwaukee a brief 1-0 lead. They added another run. The Cardinals have come back with 5, and they lead it 5-2.
There's 3 consecutive pitches that are all getting up and not finishing off the pitch.
Yachty telling him to keep from flying open with his front shoulder, and he's doing it especially on his changeup.
Yeah.
Popped up, out of play, and that'll find the seats. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
We mentioned the changeup's a big pitch for Jaime Garcia. There's the grip. He makes a circle with his thumb and his pointer finger, and then he's got 3 fingers kind of just laid out on the ball, and they take the speed off. The key is to get the batter way out in front.
Fly ball into shallow right, and Carlos Beltran is there. We will see some games in which Carlos will shift over, play center field. Did that sparingly in spring training. The Mets did not do that a year ago because of dealing with injuries in the past, but Mike Matheny has said, hey, we will do that.
I think that's going to come into play when Alan Craig is back, when you want to have another right-handed bat in the lineup, and John Jay is your center fielder. And what a new world it is for him this year, Al, to be the center fielder and not have to be wondering whether or not that's his job or not.
Well, they traded away 2 players to provide that opportunity. First it was Ludwig, and then last year it was Kobe Rasmus. And John Jay has proven that he can play here at the big league level and play on a world championship team.
It is nice to have the flexibility, though, Dan, to have Beltran available.
There's a fly ball into deep left center field. The aforementioned John Jay with a nice catch on the track as he puts it away for out number 3. Ryan Braun is 0 for 2. He's lined out and gets robbed here by John Jay. Nice play in left center. It's 5-2.
You already count on Snooks for fresh food, top quality meats, seafood, baked goods, and prepared foods. But why not one-stop shopping for all your mealtime household needs and save on a trip to the pharmacy at Snooks? You can have the pharmacy will text you when your prescription is ready. They have Snooks Pharmacy has a free program for generic oral antibiotics, including up to a 21-day supply. All you need is a valid prescription from your doctor. They have autofills. I don't know why Larry and Mike, my pharmacists, haven't provided that for me, but we'll get that done. So you can sign up for automatic refills. And I'll tell you what, Dan, this is what you need. Snooks has free prenatal vitamins. You got to add to that family, Dan. You can get free prenatal vitamins.
Okay, here's for Cal. We appreciate Snooks again this year.
No comment, huh?
I'm just moving on here, Al. It's first game. We're only, what, 4 innings in, and you're back at it.
Well, Libby and I have been talking.
Rick, you can jump in anytime. This is the beauty of having third man in the booth.
Yeah, but I'm enjoying it.
Oh, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are.
Oh, boy, that's funny.
Anytime I hear, and Dan, I'm waiting for, oh, here we go.
Well, it is good to be back at this again. Of course, the offseason was short for all of us because of the extended play in October, but it's such a privilege to be covering Cardinal baseball. The product is good year after year. The expectations are always high.
2-2 is a base hit.
No different.
Yeah. Base hit into right for Kyle. He's stinging the baseball a little bit here today. Now just one hit to show for it. But remember the first time he hit it sharply to the shortstop. So Rafael Furcal is 1 for 3.
Ricky Weeks came up as totally an offensive player. He has improved dramatically defensively. And this is an entire new playing surface here. And kind of got the idea there is plays a little bit fast.
I'm not sure that you could draw up, if you're a Cardinal fan or the Cardinals organization, if you're going to lose a guy like Albert Pujols, the way that it all unfolded with the World Series and David Freese, and hey, they made a competitive offer, didn't work out, he moves on. The team though wasted no time. They pick up Carlos Beltran. You've got Berkman coming back. I'm not sure you could draw it up any better if you're going to lose a player like that.
And losing the player is certainly a big loss. And all Cardinal fans loved watching Albert play here for years, and all the thrills that we all had, and saw the home runs and the way he led the team and the postseason play and what he did in the community of St. Louis, and so many things about Albert you're going to miss. We're all going to miss it. But smart business decision in many people's view, but that the Cardinals let him go where he went, and we all wish him well, but you do have to move on. And so many things going in a positive direction organizationally, including the minor league restocking.
Right, and everyone's disappointed that he's no longer with the ball club, but I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised with the reaction from the Cardinal fans. That they understood.
Another pitch that was up and fouled back. Most World Series championships all time, and Albert was a part of the '06 team and last year, and 11 total for St. Louis.
Well, some work to do, Al, to catch the Yankees. We're going to have 12 and 12, 13 and 13. For it, I'm not, you do the math, but you know, two of the best organizations in terms of playing that Game 7 of the World Series in the history of baseball, the Yankees and the Cardinals.
Well, the Cardinals are the Yankees of the National League, put it that way. And I was talking with Ron Renicky as they lost Prince Fielder, and we said that the only clubs that could really afford to take a Prince Fielder or Albert Pujols was going to be an American League club with a DH.
2-2 the count on Carlos Beltran. Another check on for Kyle. Beltran with a steal. His first steal for the Mets came in June of last year.
Just the indication of the knee is healthier, and you know, how much more time removed from surgery. That's why you're going to see the times he can play center. He won't steal bases like he did earlier in his career, but you know that as long as he's healthy, he's going to put up nice numbers.
Be interesting to see if Mike Matheny will use a steal more or a hit and run with Beltran as the year unfolds. The guy most likely to run is the guy at first base now.
A steal on opening night. There he goes. Lucroy down to second, and it's a second stolen base for the Cardinals today. Remember, this is a Cardinals team that was 29th in the major leagues last year in steals. They had just 57, and they want to change that this season.
Well, you may want to run, but if you can't, you better not, because you're just going to be out. So you need to have the horses to do it. Furcal's one of those, and you mentioned Tyler Green earlier, Dan, and he's a guy that once he gets in there, he'll run. But not as many Cardinals as you might think, Al, really can steal bases.
They're going to be aggressive on the base paths, and at times it's going to burn them. But I think you saw the safety from Tony La Russa that, you know, pitcher had to have such slow numbers that you know, push the envelope a little bit.
You can take the Cardinals on the road with you this season. Subscribe to MLB.TV Premium today, and you'll see every Cardinals game that's out of market online on your favorite devices in HD quality. MLB.TV, baseball is everywhere. Here's Matt Holliday, who went down to get that home run back in the third. On base twice with a walk and a solo shot. Cardinals with Komatsu, Carpenter on the bench, as well as Tyler Green, Shane Robinson. At some point we'll see Skip Schumacher return, as well as Alan Craig. And Skip will figure into that rotation at second base and center field and right field, left field. He'll be all over the place.
Skip could possibly go on a rehab assignment while we're on this road trip. That would be good news. And Alan Craig hopefully shortly to follow. And same thing you talk about Carpenter.
Here's a 1-1 pitch. Holiday in the air, right field. Slicing towards the corner, and the catch is made by Hart. Prakal tags up from second to third. If you have a question for us, go to carsoup.com/Cardinals and send us your email to booth questions. carsoup.com/Cardinals. Skip is such a versatile player. You know, you go back to that second base position, and he's had the most starts of anybody the last 3 years at second base. And then you think about the final out of the World Series last year, he's playing center field.
Versatile player, and he's a core player in terms of how his teammates feel about him. He's maybe the heart and soul in some ways of this team. He's so likable, and you know, you can be likable and not a good player, and they won't want you around, so you have to still play. But he is, in many ways, the core of this team.
Here's an 0-1 pitch.
You notice the shift they're putting on for Berkman.
Shortstop is on the second base side. That's Gonzalez. Lance, a pretty ho-hum spring training outside of his conversation one-on-one with Bud Selig.
That was not so ho-hum.
No, it wasn't. Here's a 1-1.
And what you're mentioning, Dan, is when he said that he thought that there was some extortion, was the word he used, involved with the Houston Astros needing to move to the American League next year, and Bud Selig took exception to that word, and Lance apologized for using the word, but he did not apologize for the opinion.
Talking with Lance about that, and he said it was a very easygoing conversation with the commissioner. Just wanted to explain his side of things and vice versa.
Well, you know, he used the wrong choice of words, but you know, it's how he felt. You know, he's been so big part of that Houston organization. Many people believed it should have been the Milwaukee Brewers that should have returned to the American League and been the team, be the fifth team in the West.
Creates 5 teams, and you'll see that in every division after this year. Also talk of adding the potential down the road of the designated hitter, even in the National League. Here's a 3-2 to Berkman.
Trying to ruin my day, Dan?
I am. If you want, I can get into interleague play.
Please don't.
We're hoping that things get serious tonight, because if the Cardinals score 6, any size drink is just 50 cents all day tomorrow at your nearest On the Run at Mobile. This year's 6 is a serious number.
And we really appreciate the gift that Mobile on the Run gave us in spring training. Very nice.
Another walk issued by Giovanni Gallardo.
5.
4 home runs and 5 walks, and now David Freese, who owns a 2-run shot back in the 3rd.
Already talking about pitch count, but you do have to talk about pitch count early on, because the starters aren't going to get up to 110 or 120, and he's already close to 90, so he's just about done.
Anytime you knock that starter out, get into their relief early.
Freese lines it into center. That's a base hit. Already a big afternoon for the Cardinal third baseman. His 3rd RBI. New year and same old David.
Another pitch that's up over the middle of the plate. Davis sends it right back to Central for the RBI single. And that's it for Gallardo.
3 2/3. He'll exit on opening day for the Brewers, trailing 6-2. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by MyKiaSt.Louis.com. Love bacon? Try the new BLT cheeseburger combo right now at Jack in the Box for just $4.99 plus tax. And by the new wireless receiver from AT&T Uverse. Visit AT&T.com/freeyourtv. Rethink possible. Rick Horton, Al Raboski, Dan McLaughlin with you, and this is our Mid-America Chevy Dealers Call to the Pen.
Marco Estrada was really the extra starting pitcher last year when they needed some help. He's the long man in their bullpen. Actually had some good starts, made 7 starts with the club last year and actually pitched pretty well. ERA just over 4, but important part of this Milwaukee bullpen. He's going to get a little extended work today as Gallardo just goes 3 2/3 innings through 89 pitches in that 3 2/3.
2 runners on, and here's Yadier Molina. Opposite field home run for Yadi today. Looks at a breaking ball taken inside.
Should always be ready when you're down there in the pen. That doesn't matter if it's your ace on the mound, but sometimes guys take the day off. You know, thinking, oh, it's our ace out there. I'm the long man. I won't get in this game. But Estrada did warm up previous to this inning, so he should be ready.
And you mentioned it earlier, Al, just the timing of what it's like to play on opening day, really for both ball clubs. I would say it's worse, though, for the Brewers because they've got a lot more attention here and more extraneous things that they're dealing with. Of course, opening day is great, but it's kind of tough as far as timing is concerned.
And that's why you were concerned about Jaime. Because they say, you know, he's the type of guy that if he orders room service and they say it's going to be there in 30 minutes and it's 35 minutes, you know, he freaks out. Everything has to kind of go by timing or the regimented. So in opening day, sometimes you get a little bit delayed.
Baseball's kind of the wrong game for that.
Right, it sure is. Where if you're the home team, it's a little more structured.
Here's a ground ball hit to short. Gonzalez flips to Weeks. David Freese already a big afternoon with 3 RBIs, a 2-run homer. And another RBI he's tacked on here at Miller Park. It's 6-2 Redbird. Fox Sports Midwest excited to bring you playoff hockey, and the Blues will open the first round Wednesday or Thursday at Scottrade Center. And you can look for the schedule soon. We'll be outside Scottrade before the first home game of each series. Our pep rallies and the Blues playoff action is back, and you can find it on Fox Sports Midwest. John Kelly, Darren Pang, Jim and Pat will have all that. Bernie Federico as well. The Hall of Famer will be busy, hopefully, for the next month and a half or so. Blues and Cardinals. Here's Aramis Ramirez. And as Rick and Al have told you, this is a guy that, in many ways, and Rick, I'll start with you, is the guy that in this lineup is asked to take over the job that Fielder did for so many years.
Yeah, weak ground ball to the right side there for Ramirez, but he is a good RBI man, and he's going to need to have pop, not just RBIs, but he's going to need to be a power threat. Otherwise, you'll find Braun being walked more often. Take a look at the Milwaukee Brewers record with and without Prince Fielder in his time here, and it's a team that played 7 games, Dan, under 500 without Prince Fielder, and now they'll have to play 162 without it.
The one thing about Prince that was always talked about was he's such a big man, and will that body catch up with him late in that contract long-term deal with Detroit? How many games will he play? You know what? He played all the time.
He did.
He always was there to answer the bell and ready to play. They've got quite the combination this year with Detroit. Cabrera over third and Fielder at first. Here's Corey Hart, who walked his first time up. Now, a lot of talk about the carryover of last year with these two franchises, you know, not really liking each other all that much, but some of the main combatants, La Russa, Duncan, Carpenter, no longer here. And on the other side, you think about Prince Fielder, no longer here. Ned Yost. But in particular, last year,
Nigel Morgan.
Yep, he's back.
Doesn't matter what uniform he's wearing.
Second walk issued by Jaime.
Well, the Cardinals' issues have gone beyond just the Milwaukee Brewers, the Cincinnati Reds, also within the division. But Cardinals, by the way, playing 27 straight games within the division, starting with this game today. But there was been some kind of bad blood brewing throughout the Central Division with the St. Louis Cardinals. So perhaps things will be a little calmer this year. We'll see.
Tony La Russa is a Hall of Fame manager, but he has the tendency to get under the skin of all opponents. Part of it is by design to try and have that mental edge.
Right.
You get a guy that goes to plate 600 times, and if he dislikes a pitcher and changes game plan, doesn't situational hit, and just wants to drive the ball back up the middle and try and knock the pitcher's head off, you know, you usually fallen into a trap.
In a big trap if you are trying to play a baseball game on a field against the best players on the planet and you're worrying about the manager in the other dugout.
Correct.
I mean, you shouldn't even be thinking about him.
You got enough on your plate just trying to.
You guys honestly believe that Tony will finish where he's at as far as on the all-time wins list? You see him having one more job in him?
I would say no.
I'd say no.
But with Tony, you never know, Al.
Here's the 0-2. How about a double play? 6-4-3 on the double play. Started by Furcal and turned by Descalso. 6-2 St. Louis as we head to the fifth. Top of 5, and it's 6-2. Cardinals with a lead. Milwaukee's home opener and the 6-4-3 double play.
Always fun to watch middle infielders work their magic, sweet hands. Quick turn for Descalso, who can play any infield position. Furcal has done so much to help this team. The Cardinals have had the long ball working today, but you still need to have defense to back it up, and both he and Descalso help out their pitcher, Jaime Garcia, who seems to have settled down.
That replay brought to you by Hyundai, and here's John Jay. And John looks at a strike on the outside corner. No team allowed more unearned runs than the Cardinals a year ago. But that changed when the Cardinals went with Jay in center every day. Furcal at short, which was huge. Descalso was big, especially late innings over at third. You had Molina, your Gold Glover, behind the plate. Defensively, this team got a lot better. Jose Oquendo back for his 13th year, and he's a guy that works tirelessly with the middle infielders in particular. Chris Maloney over at first base. Dave McKay, if you're wondering, is now with the Chicago Cubs, longtime first base coach. And Joe Patini is with Houston. Dave Duncan, former pitching coach of the Cardinals, threw out the first pitch, ceremonial first pitch, with Cleveland and Toronto yesterday. And a ground ball that's hit to second. Descalso is out number 2.
Estrada has a chance to have a very efficient inning. 2 outs and got Garcia coming up here.
Jaime Garcia back-to-back 13-win campaigns for the Redbirds. He is locked up through 2017. And for many of these Cardinal pitchers, the innings piled on for good reason because of postseason play. And he talked about his throwing program in the offseason being different this year. Didn't start until late December. Early January is when he had his first bullpen session. Ton of innings for Chris Carpenter last season. Garcia threw the most he had ever thrown.
Now you see that ball coming out of bright sunshine into the shadows. Seems like it's much tougher to hit right now. And with the Cardinals having a 6-2 lead, you don't mind it.
Strikeout for Estrada, and we are midway through 5. A 1-2-3 inning. Cardinals on top at 6-2. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Taco Bell. Live Moss. Find a helpful servicing Steel dealer near you. Visit steeldealers.com. And by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible. Cardinals on top at 6-2. The roof is closed here at Miller Park in Milwaukee. Opening weekend, the Major League Baseball season. Baseball returns, and so does Jaime Garcia. Home half of the 5th, and so does Adam Wainwright, guys, tomorrow as he returns pitching in big league games. Can't wait to watch him. It's going to be a lot of fun.
He was sharp in spring training. Had one bad outing towards the end, but for the most part was the same Adam Wainwright that we remember from 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm just very excited to watch him. He's just like Carpenter, you know, it's just a little special. Just watching these guys work, and you know how when they're on the mound, how just they just personify, you know, authority, and that they're in control.
Gamble with a base hit into center field. Fights it off. Leadoff hit here in the bottom of the 5th. And Garcia gives up his first base hit since the triple by Gomez back in the 1st.
Those 2 batters of this game for Milwaukee got base hits, and that's only the 3rd. Base hit was off Gamble. Do have 8 and 9 coming up, so you really just should dominate this part of the batting order.
Interesting, Garcia last year started out so good against left-handed batters, but he lost the ability to put them away, and all of a sudden left-handers started hitting him pretty well, and he made a mistake right there. He didn't finish off a guy he probably should have finished off.
Still, I believe he only gave up 11 extra base hits to left-handed batters, so yeah, they reached him for a couple home runs, but he still, for the most part, it was a single as they started getting better swings at him.
Jonathan Lucroy, the 8th place hitter for Milwaukee. The 1-0 pitch. He drills it into left center field. That ball will get down. It's cut off by Jay. Makes a nice play. Gamble on his way to 3rd, and it's 1st and 3rd and nobody out.
This team has played very well at home, and they have the firepower to come back. There's a location down and into the right-handed batting Lucroy. Just signed a long-term extension. Nice play by John Jay to run it down in left center, or it could have been worse.
And throw it into second base so you keep the double play in order. This was one of their free agent acquisitions. An outfielder, a slap hitter from Japan.
Norichika Aoki batted .299 in 27 spring games. Got off to a terrible start in spring, but then turned it on late. Gaudy numbers over in Japan. A career .329 hitter. Batting champion in 05, 07, and 10. 6-time Gold Glove winner. He's got multiple 200-hit seasons, and he is the only Japanese player to do that.
3-time batting champion there, and he hits left-handers very well. That's why he's batting lefty on lefty here. Occasional power, but more of a slap hitter. Really a left-handed hitting bench right now for the Milwaukee Brewers. All their right-handers in the lineup.
See a lot of the Japanese hitters. They almost have that running start out of the box, don't they? See it with Ichiro and Fukudome. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Yeah, if you go in to a slap hitter like this that's almost running out of the batter's box, you got to go another 6 inches further in. Otherwise, he'll get a pretty sweet part of the bat on it. But if he's looking in and kind of falling off away towards first base, you look like you expose the outer part of the plate.
And a swing and a miss. He looked to be overmatched in that at bat, didn't he?
Well, they said that was what it was like early in spring training for him. He was overmatched in Arizona, but then he caught fire towards the end and just missed hitting 300. But look at Molina set up away, and when you're kind of falling away, it looks like you can't even reach it.
Here's Ricky Weeks. Singleton scored back in the first and was called out on strikes in the third. Missed all of August, half of July and September, dealing with his ankle injury, and he only hit 146 in the postseason. And this is a guys we've talked about. You have to be careful because one swing of the bat, he can make this a one-run game. He had 17 home runs before the All-Star break last year.
A lot of power for that leadoff spot. He's a tough guy to double up too. The Cardinals pinching in the middle infield, hoping for that ground ball. Garcia certainly capable of getting it. He struck out Weeks looking in the third.
He missed 39 games, but it sure seemed like it was a lot longer.
Agreed. You mentioned, Dan, it was a gruesome ankle sprain. It was not your normal run-of-the-mill sprain your ankle, and they really missed him when he wasn't in this lineup. One of 3 All-Star game starters for the Brewers a year ago.
That's what he did in the second half. Only hit 229 with the 3 home runs. 1 ball, 1 strike on Ricky Weeks. A question about Mike Matheny never having managed at any level will be game management and when to pull a guy, when do you get a potential reliever up and throwing, those kind of decisions. We're going to start seeing that pretty soon.
Thinking the same thing.
He'll be fine. If there's any position that prepares you to manage, it's the catcher spot.
Here's a ground ball. It's a chopper towards Descalso. He's run into, and that will be interference.
Right. You have to allow the defensive man the opportunity to field the play. So, you know, you get the runner has to go back to third, and Weeks will be awarded first base. So first and second out, but you got runners at the corners. They don't get a run. There's no way you could have turned 2 on this. But you can't run into the man. Got to give him an opportunity to field the ball.
You almost get the sense there that Descalso doesn't mind the contact because he understands what's going on.
Absolutely.
And I think he helped sell it a little bit by helping get knocked down, loses the glove and everything, but
well, Brewers fans have seen that before. Fernando Vina got trucked by Albert Bell.
Right.
Not quite on that scale. And Cardinal fans remember Scott Rowland getting hit by Alex Cintron and really changed his career in many ways.
Sure did.
Aesop Choi as well with a play that involves Scott Rowland. We'll see him on Monday night in Cincinnati. Here's Carlos Gomez in what could have been a very dangerous inning. Garcia 1 out away from getting out of it unscathed.
Must get this man.
Breaking ball is lifted out to left, and Holiday makes the catch. Started in, went back. Brewers got the first 2 on and can't bring them in. 6-2 as we head to the 6th. Adam Wainwright and Zach Greinke tomorrow. It's our Budweiser What's on Tap. That game will be seen on Fox Channel 2 back home in St. Louis at 2:30. Wainwright and Greinke. Greinke has won a Cy Young Award in his career with Kansas City. Some believe Wainwright should have won one before. Didn't happen. And there's a lefty from the bullpen of Milwaukee, and it's our Chevy call to the pen.
Manny Parra, who ended up with a ERA better than 6.5 and 9 relief appearances during spring training, but a little misleading because his last outing faced 6 batters, all 6 of them reached, and gave up quite a few runs. So prior to that outing, he had an ERA under 2. Spent the entire 2011 season on the disabled list. He's just happy to be healthy, for one thing.
Top of the lineup, and Rafael Furcal. Furcal already with 2 steals for the Redbirds. The young season. Picked up a single, a run scored, and a stolen base back in the 4th. And he takes a pitch high. Furcal, Beltran, and Holiday for St. Louis. Cardinals lead at 6-2. 89 pitches for Gallardo. As you get a look at the numbers in the career of Manny Parham. And Gallardo, 6 runs on 7 hits through 3 2/3. Cardinals got him for 4 homers, 3 in the 3rd inning. And the last time that he did something like that, the 4 home runs, was September 1st, and that was against the Cardinals. So again, it's just one of those things where he has very good numbers in his career against everybody else for the most part, except St. Louis.
Yeah, too many mistakes today, not keeping the ball in the ballpark, but also the velocity was down. He didn't seem to really be throwing very hard today, and I'm not sure that's a big cause for concern if you're the Milwaukee Brewers just yet on opening day, but if that continues, that could be a problem. He normally is a guy that throws 93, 94 miles an hour, but really wasn't blowing any Cardinals away with his fastball.
2-2 the count on Furcal. 1 for 3 this afternoon. And he hits it down the left field line. That's a fair ball and a 2-hit day. Furcal on his way to second base. Throw in by Braun, and they got him.
Braun first came in the big leagues as a 3rd baseman. He was horrible defensively. He's turned into a pretty decent left fielder, and has that 3rd base arm right there. Wasn't the best throw, but it was there in time to get Furcal. Tries to go around the tag, but he's clearly out.
Carlos Beltran. And that's a base hit out to left. Big day for Beltran, on base for the 3rd time with a walk, a homer, and now a single to start his at bat here in the 6th. Cardinals Care 6K and 1 mile fun run will be Sunday, September 16th. We promote that now, even though it's in September, because you do get a deal before April 30th if you sign up. Cardinals.com/6K for more information. And kids, men, women, boys, girls, come on out. Walk, run, jog, whatever you want to do. We're raising money for Cardinals Care. Start at the Stan the Man statue and finish at home plate. Michael Hall and his crew at Cardinals Care, they have raised over $18 million since its inception. 0-1 to Holiday. Should mention too, the Cardinals have an initiative right now where they're asking schools or businesses to have a dress down day, if you will, but dress in red for the home opener. If you have to work that day, go to work and make a donation to Cardinals Care, and hopefully your very kind boss will say, nicely done. Dress down, dress in red, and make that donation to Cardinals Care. 1-2 on Holiday.
It's also a nice promotion going around with Matt Holliday. I don't know, and David Freese, they're become such close friends, but you can make a donation and it goes to Cardinal Glennon Hospital for every home run. Hopefully we made some noise today with the 4 Cardinal home runs.
Matt is swing and a miss, and he strikes out.
That's kind of gave away that at bat right there as he swings at a pitch that clearly out of the strike zone. He's not quite right. I'm not going to be worried about Holiday's numbers at the end of the season.
No, he wasn't quite right in the opening day, but you mentioned the strike zone a little bit not to his liking and a couple of strikeouts in Miami, but really you look at the spring training effort of Matt Holliday and he was phenomenal.
He had a 13-game hitting streak during the spring.
Berkman lines it into right center field, and that ball will get down. It will go to the wall. Beltran being waved in, and he will score to make it 7-2. Lance Berkman with a 2-out RBI double to make it 7-2 St. Louis.
This inning would even be bigger if Furcal had not gotten thrown out at second base on his hit down the line to start the inning off. So Parr has only been able to get out Matt Holliday. Can't get out Lance Berkman.
And you kind of said Holliday got himself out, and watching Beltran, he goes around the bases, scores from first base. That's good to see him running free and easy.
Yeah, running well.
Here's David Freese with a runner at second base and 2 down already in the young year. He's got 5 RBIs. You know, David Freese, first spring training since 2008 without an ailment. And talking with John Mabry and Mark McGuire, they really worked on his lower half to avoid being too handsy. I think he can get a little handsy with his swing at times, so they want to see his lower half into his swing a little bit more. And David has had a big day offensively.
Well, he did it first with the long ball, and we've seen that before from David Freese, but he also gets a base hit up the middle, drive in another run, and he continues his torrid pace. And you know, talking about the injuries, Dan, you know, a player in his career can almost start to think that it's going to happen again. You're injured year after year, and you think and almost expect it to happen. And, you know, be good for David to just kind of get all that behind him and move on and become a player that becomes a player you can count on to play 155+ games.
The one thing, he and Matt Holliday worked out partners, and one of the things they did was play squash, which that should really help his lateral movement at third base.
Here's a 1-2 pitch to the Cardinal third baseman. What a trade it has turned out to be. And at the time, you had no idea. Jim Edmonds for a guy named David Freese, who's from Lafayette High School. Wait, who is this guy? He played at Merrimack. And then we later find out that he had given up baseball for a year, missed it, went back to the game that he loved, drafted by San Diego, and becomes a hometown hero. And boy, I'm not sure anybody could ask to have any kind of homecoming like David Freese has had back in St. Louis with what he did in the postseason and certainly in Game 6 last year of the World Series.
Well, he had never played above A-ball, and initially you just thought, oh, well, St. Louis kid, just kind of throw-in type deal. But
somebody done their homework.
Yeah, somebody did their homework, because he bypassed AA and put up big numbers at AAA that first year.
The 2-2 is hit down the right field line. It is slicing, and that ball is foul.
And Dan, you mentioned the winner of David Freese. When the Cardinals went to the White House to visit the president, there wasn't a single Cardinal that was more excited. People were more excited to see the David Freese, and this is why. This is what he did in Game 6. Dan, you remember that?
Absolutely. I remember Game 6 of the next series a lot better, though.
Yes.
That game, the Cardinals down to their final out a couple of times.
But because of
final
that
strike
swing we just saw, it was part of the reason why he's MVP of the league championship season or series.
A 2-2. Freese hits it out of play and spoils it. Now, you were talking about those squash games. I talked to David about it, and he said once the organization got wind that those two were doing it, Holliday and Freese playing squash, they said, you know, David, with your history of some ankle issues, you might want to think about not doing that so much. Let's stay healthy. Strikes out here. Well, Berkman was turned around, and from the right side picks up an RBI double to make it 7-2. Fox Saturday Baseball tomorrow. Cardinals and Brewers. And you will see as well Royals and Angels this week, 2:30 Central, only on Fox. Wainwright and Greinke tomorrow. Along with Rick Horton and Al Hrabosky, I'm Dan McLaughlin. And Rick, I'll start with you. Wainwright is coming off Tommy John. You know, how careful does Mike Matheny want to be with innings that could pile up for Adam Wainwright this year, and in particular the first month or so?
Well, the two things you got to worry about is the extended pitch count early and then how many innings late. And they're really two different things. And with Wainwright, I think you've got a guy that, you know, is going to want to take the ball, and you may have to take it from him because Adam's not going to say enough is enough. You're going to have to make that decision for him. And when you've got a bulldog like Adam Wainwright, you really need to have another voice in your head, and that's either Matheny or Derek Lilliquist, the pitching coach. It's got to make sure that you kind of tone him down a bit.
Today's players. I mean, I was talking with Dyer Miller before the game, and we were just talking about, you know, the difference in our area. You really didn't protect people. You didn't have an investment. If you got hurt, you got hurt. You couldn't adjust. You just go home. There's Dyer Miller, who's been around a long time. Pitched in the big leagues, but also a longtime pitching instructor, Cardinal organization, and others. But I just wonder why, you know, I mean, Strasburg's on 160 innings pitched, something like. But with Wainwright, I think he's smart enough to know that, as you said, you know, you kind of gauge him early and everything like this. But if he's not laboring, I think you let him go.
And that's really the key, if you're laboring or not.
Right.
If you're in your zone, and we talk about it from time to time, but it's very true for a pitcher that if you're locked in. Jake Westbrook, by the way, to his right, is locked in. He had a very good spring training as well. Looking forward to watching him get off to a good start. But if you're pitching in your motion, Dan, and you are locked in, you're not really worried about your elbow, your shoulder, or how tired you are.
I'm sure that's not going to be the problem, but as you said, you have to do the thinking for him.
Yeah.
Meaning, let's be careful with this guy because he does mean so much to this year and beyond.
Yeah. You do care about the long term, and the finances are part of that.
Having said that, though, you know, the blessing in disguise is that if you're going to get hurt like he was hurt early. And so this has been over now a year that he's dealt with coming back from Tommy John surgery.
And we just had the feeling the way he was in September last year and everything, that, you know, he was going to have a healthy off season, come in a good frame of mind into spring training, no setbacks, no babying, you know, just giving the ball.
Good pitch, and Braun grounds out. He's 0 for 3.
Get through a dangerous hitter here, and Ryan Braun. Garcia almost got touched up last inning, but a good start to this one. This pitch away, gobbled up by Descalzo at second base. I love his footwork.
Yeah, you know, I mean, on that pitch there, you got a very, very good hitter, but yet he gets himself out.
Right.
You know, reaching for a ball. Did try to go the other way with it, but still, it's a ball that you don't get on top of, and you can't really hit it for the line drive.
What's it going to be like when Ryan Braun heads to Chicago on Monday afternoon? Reception that he will get from the fans outside of Miller Park because of what he's dealt with this offseason. As you can look at Aramis Ramirez, the former Cub.
Well, it'd be a different expectation for the Brewers if Ryan Braun was going to have to sit out 50 games.
Long way to go for John Jay, and he makes the catch on the run. And there's 2 away. As we turn to trivia time here in the bottom of the 6th, and it's brought to you by AT&T, who holds the Cardinals record for most RBIs in a single World Series. Molina, 9, 2011.
Was not one of my first 2 guesses.
No. His heart lines it fair.
Right on the line.
Just over The glove of David Freese, hard on his way to second base. They got to be careful. I mean, he just had surgery not even a month ago.
He was very ginger rounding first base. You weren't sure whether he was going to take off for two. Holiday makes it close with the throw at second base. Hart actually got hurt slipping in his spikes. Actually, he was standing on concrete and he tore some meniscus in his knee. And as you mentioned, Dan, the surgery very recent, but this ball just barely in fair territory, and he does get a double out of it.
Would it shock you that I'm telling you that Corey Hart is in his 9th year with the Brewers? Does that surprise you? To me, it did.
Hard to shock me, Dan, but it
9
does,
years
it does
for Corey
surprise
Hart.
me. Been around a long time.
He's the guy that is overlooked.
You're right,
in
Al.
a lineup an awful lot, but he is so vital to their. You know, he's a good defensive player. You know, he's kind of that quiet guy that just leads by example. And, you know, many times when you're going in the offense, you forget about he's a dangerous bat.
I think you're exactly right. When you think about Fielder, Braun, those names come to mind.
He is a guy that's not noticed very much. That's a two-time All-Star.
Yeah, he's not,
but it is true.
Because he's not flashy.
Right.
He doesn't bring attention to himself. And, you know, he hit 26 home runs, I think, last year.
Only 63 RBIs, but part of that was due to the fact he was in the leadoff spot.
Well, and also he started to, you know, on the disabled list too.
Here's a fly ball that's hit into left center field, and Jay is there and casually puts it away. We head to the 7th. Garcia's sharp at 7-2. It's the home opener for the Milwaukee Brewers. The brats on the grill. John Jay has been busy. The long ball has been a big part of this game. Jaime Garcia, after a shaky first, has settled in, and the Redbirds have a lead of 7-2 as they try to go to 2-0 the young year. Small market team, Rick Horton and Al Raboski. Along those two, I'm Dan McLaughlin, and you know, you think about small market teams, and yet the Brewers, Cardinals, both drawing over 3 million fans. Cardinals have done it 13, 14 years in a row at least, and we'll do it again this year.
And both clubs putting very competitive teams on the field of late, and really in a division that's up for grabs. You look at Cincinnati, they've probably made themselves better in the offseason, although they have some question marks themselves in terms of health. But I think if you look at what the Brewers and Cardinals have done, they've kind of made it a year in and year out thing where they're competing. And so a small market team, if you make it fun at the ballpark, people will show up. And winning's a lot to do with that at this level.
Depending on what publication you read, some will say that St. Louis is going to win this division. Others looking at the Reds, especially prior to the injury to Matson, who was to be their closer, the former Phillies closer. And some discounted Milwaukee, but yet they lose really just one big player, and that's a big one. It's Prince Fielder.
He is a big one, but I think you're discounting Milwaukee too much if you say that they're not in the hunt. I don't know how you can distinguish between the three clubs, frankly. I think you'd all handicap them about the same, I would say, in terms of their chances.
I think they did a very good job of plugging the gap, you know, with Ramirez, and they're very happy with Gonzalez, so they improved defensively. And
you've got two closers,
Al. You know, and you've got a second closer for the first year. They've got you know, quality setup guys too.
The 3-1 is lifted out to left, and Braun is there. We talked about the sun peeking through the glass down that first base line, so this becomes tough for, in particular, third baseman, shortstop, and the left fielder.
Yeah, he couldn't see that ball at all. Even the ball he caught, he really didn't seem to get a good jump.
Why doesn't he have glasses?
Well, there's a good question.
I mean, he's out there fighting it. I'd go call timeout right now. He just told the center fielder that I'm I'm struggling seeing the ball.
There's John Jay. He's been busy today, especially defensively.
You know, it's one thing. Somebody might get on you because, hey, you're indoors, you're wearing glasses, but it's justified with those windows.
And Jay shoots it just foul. Braun will walk into the pitch, and sometimes he'll crouch down right when the pitch is coming. And when he does that, he puts himself right into the sun. You could see it there. He's just about ready to. But our esteemed director, Tom Mee, won't miss a pitch.
I might play a little deeper.
The 1-2 is lifted out to left center field, and that ball gets down, cut off by Gomez. And Jay on his way to second base. He's in there safely.
Very alert base running by John Jay. That ball was bobbled for no more than a half a second, but John Jay saw it, and he knew that it would be some work for Gomez to pick this ball up. He bobbles it just a little bit, and Jay sees it, takes off. Not a stolen base, but in some ways it is.
It's very easy to leave the batter's box and think about two, and then take that round the bag as if you're going to go there, and then you're watching the play, and you read it perfectly.
Gamble will take it himself. Advancing on the play was Jay to third. Let's take a look at our Nissan drives of the game, and it's the home runs. If you're just joining us, maybe you're just getting home from work. Long ball early for St. Louis. Matter of fact, they had 3 in 1 inning, 4 in this game. They knocked out Yovani Gallardo 3 2/3, 7 hits, 6 runs. He walked 5 and only struck out 3.
You know, Mark McGwire leading the offense. You know, they led the National League in runs scored, on base percentage, and the only team in the National League to strike out fewer than 1,000 times.
And off to a very good start offensively this year, after beating a pitcher that I think is one of the best pitchers in the National League, and Josh Johnson.
Well, they didn't have a slouch here today either.
Agreed.
You know, they have good numbers against Gallardo, but he puts up very, very winning numbers against everybody but the Cardinals.
Shane Robinson, the pinch hitter for Jaime Garcia, so the lefty's day is through. And Robinson makes the club very good defensive outfield when you think about what he's done in the minor leagues. At this point, the Cardinals don't have a lot of punch off their bench, as Romero, the lefty, 1 of 2 for Mike Matheny, is getting loose. Robinson off the glove of the pitcher, and that's a base hit RBI. It's another 2-out RBI hit for the Cardinals this afternoon, his first in the season.
There's plate appearance. Not only gets a base hit, but he gets a big RBI.
Taking those extra bases. The error allowed John Jay to get from first to second. The ground ball to first allowed him to get from second to third. Then an infield hit, and it produces a run. That's the way you play baseball.
You don't always have to have hits to score.
And now you think about the little things that have been done in this game. The Cardinals now lead it 8-2. You go back to what potentially could have been a huge inning for Milwaukee. They got their first 2 on. It was Gamble and Lucroy, and then it was a strikeout by the pinch hitter. And then a real key play was the interference at second base when they ran into Descalso. Run did not score, and Garcia got out of the inning.
Very, very good point. And I think it all starts out, you know, like when you think about John Jay and taking advantage, it's the mindset of we're going to be very aggressive on the base pass. If you make a mistake being aggressive, I'm not going to fault you. You know, maybe we'll talk about it, we can learn from it, maybe pick better judgment, but for the most part, I want you to be aggressive. And even here at the major level, they'll make enough mistakes that you'll win.
It's blocked by Lucroy.
You know, back to that inning you're talking about, Dan, it also kept Ryan Braun from batting in that inning. And Jaime Garcia having to pitch to him with some stress. Maybe the tying run, maybe a couple runs between that and the tying run, but still, you don't want to face Ryan Braun with runners on base in an inning when things aren't going well. So I think that play was a very, very key play when Lucroy ran into Descalzo, or vice versa.
2-2. I don't know about you guys, but the more I watch him, I love watching Descalzo play. You know, it doesn't matter if he's at third base or second base. It just seems like positive things happen when he's on the field.
He's a winning player. He knows how to play the game properly. You don't have to necessarily remind him. He was well schooled. And he's a team player that he knows that, you know, that there are going to be times where he's going to be playing on the bench and coming off the bench and doing good things. But he's also saying, hey, if I got a chance to win that job, I'm going to take advantage of it too.
Inside two for Kyle, and the walks have piled up for St. Louis as well. For Kyle has been on base now 3 times.
It was the delivery of Manny Parra. He was a starter early in his career. Stiff front leg. Comes a fulcrum as he goes over the top of that front leg.
It look like your kneecap's going to explode.
Yeah, it does.
Here's Beltran, who has a home run, stolen base today. And he looks at a ball low. Jaime Garcia, 6 innings, 5 hits. As you get a look at Ramirez fighting that sun a little bit too. 87 pitches for the lefty Garcia. Real key in this game too. We know how loud it can get inside Miller Park, but Cardinals took the crowd out of the game early.
Sure did. Did it with the long ball.
They were prepared to yell and scream, have a lot of fun all day long, and as you said, those home runs kind of silenced them, and they haven't been able to get back in the game.
2 balls and 1 strike.
And this is a team that is used to playing very, very well at home.
57 wins. Same amount that San Francisco had a year ago. 57 wins at home.
A .704 winning percentage here at this ballpark. They beat up on the teams that they should have a year ago. They went 41-12 against Chicago, Florida, and Houston. And then they went 55-54 against everybody else.
I mean, that's the classic formula. Is, you know, play 500 baseball against the good clubs, but dominate against the weak ones. Doesn't always happen that way, but it usually, if you can do it, you're gonna be right in the thick of things.
That's how you win 96 games.
That's right.
3-2 the count on Beltran with 2 runners on at first and second. With 2 outs, there they go. Beltran hits it high in the air, out to left. Braun shading from the sun. He's over and makes the catch. Time to stretch during this opening day for Milwaukee. Cardinals looking to go to 2-0. There's a look at our Burger King in-game box score. Busy at the top of that lineup, and everybody 1 through 9. Pinch hitter Robinson in that 9th spot, all with a hit. Home run has been a key today. And that's a look at the in-game box score, brought to you by Burger King. Sunday, April 15th, it's the Cards and Cubs, and all fans with a ticket have the opportunity to receive and display a 3x5 replica of the 2011 World Championship pennant flag. Will be raised in center field at Busch Stadium. We should mention, too, that the start time for that game is at 1:15 on that Sunday afternoon. I know a lot of folks will stay away because they think it's going to be turned into a Sunday night game. That is not the case. So that Sunday game against Chicago, good seats still available. The pennant is available, and every fan walks away with a pennant. And the day before, there are tickets still for the World Series replica ring. And I know we get a lot of people asking us about opening day tickets. A lot of times there are tickets that are turned back in, especially by the visiting clubs. So just go to Cardinals.com daily and check for those opening day tickets. But still a chance to head to the opening weekend to see your world champion Cardinals as we get a look at J.C. Romero.
35-year-old veteran left-hander who's really on this club to get left-handers out. That's going to be his main job, really the second left-hander out of the bullpen. There was a time, Al, where he was as nasty as any left-hander in the bullpen in the National League when he was pitching with Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, he was very tough, and he's had some issues since that time, but I think the team has confidence in him, and it's also with all the left-handed hitters on the bench, put another lefty out there and just keep them sitting there.
Cardinals with a right-hander getting loose in the pen. So Romero may just see Gamble, who really struggled against lefties in the minor leagues, but picks up a base hit. And Romero wasn't overly sharp, Rick, in spring training.
No, he really wasn't. He wasn't throwing that hard, and really his off-speed pitch wasn't sharp either. And those are the two things you really need, a little bit of velocity, but especially that off-speed pitch to get left-handers out. That's where the equalizer is, and just hasn't been sharp with that, and giving up a leadoff hit to Matt Gamble is no way to start.
Gamble a 2-hit day, and here's Lucroy. Cardinals have turned a double play, and that was back in the 4th inning, 6-4-3. Off the bat of Gonzalez, Lucroy today with a base hit and also grounded out to second.
You'd like to think that you get a ground ball in the infield. Cardinals will tune 2. Mitchell Boggs is warming up in the bullpen for the Redbirds.
See Matt Gamble at first, Al. I know you'll appreciate this story. It was Trevor Hoffman, spring training a couple of years ago, took basically took his stall in spring training and took it outside of the Major League clubhouse because he was showing up a little bit too late in the eyes of some of the veterans. So they said, all right, we'll show you. They put his stuff outside and said, hopefully this is going to wake you up. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two.
I like that.
It has a way of doing that.
I like that.
And Gamble even admitted, he said it was something that obviously he's never going to forget when you have a future Hall of Famer that does that, but he said they were right in doing it.
And as nice a guy as Trevor Hoffman is, it just shows you how thick-skinned you have to be in this game. If you're a veteran player, you just feel like that's part of the deal. Dan, it was what you were talking about earlier about Mike Matheny using some of his veteran players to police a bit. It's just what you do, but you hope that your veteran players aren't just older players, but they're also wise players.
Correct. And it's something that happens every spring. But you get young guys come in and they may be a little bit take things for granted or a little bit too comfortable in a big league clubhouse, and sometimes it can be a hard lesson to learn, but it's a valuable lesson. That it's much better to be like a lot of the young Cardinal players came in there and they were sponges, just soaking up the atmosphere, trying to learn everything they can instead of trying to be the atmosphere.
3-2 the count.
That's why a lot of people had great respect for Rosenthal, a young hard-throwing right-hander that can open up with Springfield, and Matt Carpenter, guys that kind of came in and just really hustled, tried to learn everything they could from the veterans, but didn't talk much.
3-2 pitch, lined up the middle for a base hit. So back-to-back hits against Romero. And a nutritious meal for Al. Beautiful.
Well, I won't say it's beautiful and I won't say it's nutritious, but it's a lot better than looking what we're going to see in Cincinnati.
Good point.
It always goes back with
It
Al. The
goes back
Skyline
to
chili.
Skyline chili.
You can't get away from it.
You're already not looking forward to that, aren't you?
You know, my stomach is just thinking about it.
Pitching change when we come back. 8-2 St. Louis. Carsoup.com, our email the booth question. David from Iowa. Which player do you think could be the biggest factor in the quest for a repeat? Good question. Wainwright comes to mind for me.
It's a hard question. You could come up with 5 or 6 answers that would work for that. I'm going to say Matt Holliday. If Matt Holliday is healthy all year long and puts up the kind of numbers that we think he can, we know he can, then I'm going to say Holliday, but I think there are a lot of good choices, Al.
You know, like you said, there are so many good choices, and Holliday, we just come to expect it.
Yeah.
Wainwright, you come to expect him to be healthy and pitch like he did. You know, in 2010 or throughout his career. Here's a guy that I think Mike Matheny really went out of his way to make Mitchell Boggs realize how important he could be to this ball club.
Yeah.
You know, really massage the ego. And Boggs, I don't think he really fully recovered from being sent down to AAA last year.
0-1 pitch, and this is Niger Morgan. Morgan hit .304, 378 at bats a year ago. Had the game-winning hit in the 5th deciding game against Arizona in postseason play.
Don't you feel that? Well, first of all, I felt Boggs was sent down without reason.
Agreed.
And it just really kind of ruined his psyche.
Well, I'll give you a name that has helped him a lot. Derek Lilliquist. And Mitchell was telling me at the beginning of spring training, in his mind, because he's had Derek before in the minor leagues, it was almost like a clean slate. You know, I've had success in the minor leagues with Derek, and now that he's the pitching coach, I feel comfortable. Slowly hit to the right side, out at second, and runners at first and third with 1 down.
There's an example right there of Descalso not fearing making a mistake.
Exactly.
You know, a lot of guys, they got the momentum going towards first base. It's a much easier play getting the runner at first base. But he makes sure that he gets the ball into his glove. 2 hands. Now he turns his body and makes the more difficult throw to second base, keeping the double play in order.
A less confident infielder will not make that play.
Exactly. And that's what Daniel Descalso is, that very confident guy. He knows his ability. You don't have to, you know, go out there and say this is a situation. He's prepared for it.
Could be 2 for Cal. Steps on the bag. It's a double play. Great job by Mitchell Boggs. Comes in with 2 runners on and nobody out and gets out of the jam. We head to the 8th, and it's 8-2. It's 8-2 in favor of St. Louis as we move to the top of the 8th, and Rafael Furcal has been a part of 2 double plays. Let's go to our studio with this Bommarito Sports Update.
Dan, thanks very much. A pair of Cy Young contenders squaring off in the desert tonight. It'll be 2-time winner Tim Lincecum taking the hill for the Giants against last year's NL wins leader Ian Kennedy for the Diamondbacks. Dan, Al, Ricky, back to you in Milwaukee.
Great job throughout the hockey season, and looking forward to this summer.
Tim Dillard, 24 games last year, also pitched at AAA. He's a submariner, and he's making his first opening day roster.
And the first pitch is a strike to Matt Holliday.
Really everything going the Cardinals' way. They've made a couple of key pitches and key situations, the couple of double plays you mentioned, Dan, but they also got the break with the interference of the runner Lucroy, and Jaime Garcia came up with pitches when he needed it. He wasn't great, but he was, I would say, good.
here this afternoon, and good enough to be the pitcher of record on the plus side, and really not making Mike Matheny's job that difficult yet.
Holiday a bouncer to first, and there's one away, and that's how we start play here in the top of the 8th. Things just got serious because the Cardinals have scored 6 in this ball game. Head to your nearest on the run at Mobile. Any size drink, just 50 cents all day tomorrow. Jaime Garcia, 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs. He walked 2, struck out 3, 87 pitches, and he's in line for the victory today. Looked pretty good.
He gave up those 2 runs the first inning, and then he settled in. So a lot more positives. Speaking of positives, about the job Mitchell Boggs did. Come in with nobody out, 2 men on, and he races and gets the double play.
I think you're right about Mitchell Boggs too, Al. I kind of noticed that Mike Matheny has tended to kind of really focus on him a lot in spring training. I think he's, I don't want to say a pet project, maybe that's not the right word, but I think he knows that there's an upside to what Mitchell Boggs can bring, and he wants to make sure he is in his corner, it being as positive as he possibly can be with him, and certainly today he did a nice job.
I think he's way too valuable not to.
2 strikes on Berkman, 1-2 the count.
You know, sometimes people tend to pat you on the back when you're going well. You don't need it when you're going well.
That's right. You already know you're good then.
You know, look at your batting average. Look at your, you know, your ERA or something like that. But when you're struggling is when you need that pat on the back. And it's, right now, as Dan told you, Lillquist has provided an awful lot of that. So if your pitching coach and your manager do it, you know, then you feel like you're a big part of the team.
You know, we saw Tyler Green chatting with
same thing.
Mark McGuire early in this inning. I'd like to see him get in the game sooner than later. Just a guy that really expected to be the starting second baseman and hasn't really had a chance to do that in the first 2 games. Just get a chance to get him in this ball game, I would.
One and 2 the count. Lance Berkman slicing down the left field line. Long way to go for Braun. That'll find the seats and out of play.
Along those lines, you know, last season we saw so many times where David Freese was taken out for defense. David, you know, is a better defender than what people were led to believe and what they saw in postseason. But along those lines, you could take David out after this at bat, put Descalzo at third, give Green the second base, you know, a couple innings at second base, just to, you know, like you say, get him acclimated and feel he's part of it.
2 away, and the aforementioned David Freese will dig in. Want to be here in person next time your Cardinals take the field? Just head to StubHub. It's easy to find the seats you want to Cardinals games all season long. The fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the St. Louis Cardinals. StubHub.
But it's something I don't want to see on a regular basis,
right,
taking Freese out.
You're just talking about it for this particular case.
Correct. 6-run lead, you know, it's more to get Green in the game.
Right. Freese a bouncer to third. Ramirez makes the play. Mike Matheny and the Cardinals trying to go to 2-0. They lead at 8-2. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Budweiser, official beer of the thirst inning. Great times are on deck. Grab some buds. By Burger King, the proud sponsor of opening week baseball. And by Schnucks Pharmacy, the smart choice. 3-man booth for opening day here in Milwaukee. Rick Horton, Al Raboski, Dan McLaughlin with you. Jaime Garcia, 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 87 pitches. A lot of little stories in this ball game, and one of them just moments ago developed with Mitchell Boggs, and he came in out of the bullpen after Romero gave up a couple of base hits, and with nobody out, Boggs got out of the inning with the help of a double play as well. Here's Carlos Gomez. Cardinals have turned 2 double plays. They've hit 4 home runs. A liner and a base hit out to left.
Two hits for Gomez here this afternoon. Boggs may have gotten this one up just a little bit. Had some sink to it, but about thigh high instead of knee high.
Right.
And really not a bad pitch, not a bad first pitch to Gomez. You're going to get more ground balls than not from that pitch, and that's one of the things about Mitchell Boggs is I'd like to see him trust his stuff enough to not throw a lot of pitches, not get behind hitters, just go right at guys.
That's a phrase that a lot of people don't understand. Trust your stuff. You've got good stuff. Go out there and just believe that you're going to get it. And then, like you said, in that case, it wasn't a bad first pitch. He had a bad result. It was a base hit. But what if that was right out of fielder? It's an easy, hard hit ground ball out.
So don't overthrow after that and make it worse.
Right. And right now you're looking for a ground ball to get a double play with. Boggs got a nasty sinker that he throws at such high velocity.
Good test here with Ryan Braun, who is 0 for 3. Braun, besides what was happening off the field with his suspension that then was taken back, got off to a terrible start this spring, but they felt that he looked much better in the final 5 games or so. Started stinging the baseball, and he himself said he was locked in coming into opening day. Cardinals Live coming up next, and here's the 1-1 pitch.
Most valuable player in the National League a year ago. Some would say Matt Kemp should have had that award. I think both of them were well deserved. Either one. Flip a coin.
Some believe Matt Kemp still should have been the MVP after the initial word came down of the suspension of Ryan Braun. Here's a 2-1 pitch. And Kemp has come out and said he wants to be a 50-50 man this year. 50 home runs and 50 steals as the Dodgers are moving forward with new ownership. Magic Johnson part of that group, and for their fans we hope better times.
Well, Braun was a 30-30 man last year. 50-50, that's a big leap.
Canseco was the first 40-40.
The 2-2 pitch to Braun. A strikeout. He waves at it. That's twice now he's gone after pitches he doesn't seem very comfortable with 2 strikes.
Well, that just gives you an indication what good stuff that Boggs has when he can make a good hitter like this. Totally off balance, doesn't look comfortable at all.
You can see from that angle how late he was.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, tardy on the swing.
Aramis Ramirez, the 33-year-old, spent over 8 seasons with the Chicago Cubs after beginning his career with Pittsburgh.
And what a difference. The Pittsburgh player was just a target to just criticize him, but he turned himself. When he went to Chicago, he got a little more serious and became an outstanding ball player.
Remember, they were making their run to postseason play, the Cubs were, and at that time they picked up a young Ramirez, Randall Simon, Kenny Lofton, and a lot of people around baseball were shocked to see the Pirates not only dealing a guy like Ramirez, but then dealing him within their division.
Well, and really getting nothing in return.
Right.
Whether it was John Vanderwall or
1-2 the count.
who was a right-handed pitcher that went to San Francisco. That was
Jason Schmidt.
Schmidt. Was another, just a lopsided trade.
Well, they didn't do it with McCutchen. Pirates decided we're gonna keep one of our good young players, and I'm glad they did, and they seem to be going in a better direction.
Another strikeout for Mitchell Boggs, number 2.
And Mitchell has a chance to really build off of this performance.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals, LLC. Here's Corey Hart, pair of walks and a double. First pitch, a strike. I know it's early. You play 162, but you couldn't have asked for a better start right now for the Cardinals.
Well, I think the start matters too when you've got a rookie manager who's still trying to feel his way. And everybody I know wants Mike Matheny to be successful. If you know him, if you've been around him, if you know anything about him, you want him to do well. And the Cardinals, off to this good start, have kept him from having to make that tough decision in the 8th and 9th inning, at least so far. And kind of get that first win under your belt, then hopefully the second one here this afternoon, and maybe you can breathe a little easier.
How about his college coach saying you're going to be a big league manager, and so I want you to go take Spanish lessons? And nobody knew he could speak Spanish.
Well, I asked Jose Oquendo about that today.
As did I.
And I said, you know, just how good is Mike at Spanish? And he said, very good. He said he understands it when you're talking to him much better than he speaks it.
Right.
But in dealing with the players that speak Spanish, none of them knew, and they communicate just fine. There's no problems whatsoever.
I've known Mike for, how long have we known Mike? 15 years, and I didn't know he spoke Spanish.
How many times were guys ripping on him in Spanish, and then all of a sudden
he actually knew
it
what was going on? That actually happened to me in Puerto Rico one year when I was playing. I had guys dogging me, and they said, hey, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, wait a minute
They
here.
went, whoops. I probably deserved it. It's all right.
But I mean, you got to.
Well, Al and I will just do it right to your face, and we have no problem with that.
In English, thank you.
But you know those young Latin players, or even if Furcal or Beltran, if you speak it, you know, the respect level goes way up for them.
It's fouled back off the bat of Corey Hart. Well, we mentioned before, this is a homecoming of sorts for Mike Matheny. With Milwaukee from 94 to 98, and then was with St. Louis and picked up the 3 Gold Gloves. And what a tremendous defender we found out Mike Matheny is. And he finished up with San Francisco and really has become, and I'm sure we'll talk about it throughout the season, but one of the leading experts from a player's perspective of concussions. What players deal with. High towering shot into deep center field. And Jay is there. Very fine work from Mitchell Boggs. Mike Matheny, all smiles so far. It's 8-2. Well, coming up next, it's Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. Pat Paris, one of the hardest working men in show business, standing by. Cal Eldred is fresh off his trip to Florida, ready to roll in the postgame show throughout the season. Al and Rick will be a part of that since we lost John Mabry and Mike Matheny.
They were promoted.
So what happens to you guys next year? Are you going back in uniform? What's the deal?
What do you think, Al?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
There you go.
The stealing money is too easy up here, isn't it?
Well, no, it's just the pain tolerance.
I understand. But coming up, it'll be the post-game show. 4 burning questions for Cal Eldred. And they'll also take a look at the day for Jaime Garcia. Jim will be in the locker room, and you'll hear from Mike Matheny. You won't have Tony TV. You're going to have Mike TV, which might be a little toned down compared to Tony La Russa.
Yeah, stay tuned for the new name of what that's going to be. But I'm still thinking about Al and the pain thing. Is it pain he would be feeling or pain he would be
dishing out?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'd be trying to dispense it.
There's extra bases coming up for Yadier Molina. He's on his way to second base. And in there with a double to start the 9th inning.
Yeah, I'd be trying to hurt somebody, but it wouldn't hurt anymore, other than me.
Good afternoon for Yadier Molina. Pass for Ramirez.
Not sure Ramirez is 100% in this game, but that was a rocket off the bat that I don't think he could have come close to.
He kind of has that look from time to time. An outstanding player, and you mentioned that he's a guy that's really improved when he was with the Cubs, but he kind of has that nonchalant look to him every once in a while. And frankly, if he's not into a game on opening day in the big leagues, then when are you going to be into a game?
Yeah.
But I think it's more just his style and his kind of relaxed way he plays his game.
Here's the 0-1 pitch to John Jay, and it's taken low and in. Second inning of work for the sidewinder Dillard.
And the Cardinals were so good in spring training with the starting pitching. You know, you look at the first 2 games, the offensive assault, double figures in hits both games.
That's a foul ball.
It's almost, you know, they played airless baseball. A lot
Aggressive.
of good things, a lot of, you know, aggressive on the base paths, taking, you know, under control, trying to push it.
1-2 the count. Leadoff double for Molina. He stands at second base. Nobody down here in the Cardinals' top of the 9th.
You mentioned the good building block for Mitchell Boggs. Looks as if we'll see Kyle McClellan in the 9th inning. He's getting loose right now in the Cardinal bullpen.
I know it's early. I know it's the first time we've seen Milwaukee, but you talk about trying to win series as the year goes on, and it sets up as a game that you'd love to get game 1 of the series, because you know you've got Greinke tomorrow, who was perfect in this ballpark and was just nasty here a year ago.
And you're playing against a club that's been very good at this ballpark as well. The starting pitching is the reason why they're so good at home. There's a look at Zach Greinke. When you've got 5 good starting pitchers, you can kind of start reeling them off one after another in a homestand, and you don't want to get a team with too much momentum, and the Cardinals showing well here in game 1's big.
Win the first game of a series. You can't sweep without winning that first one, but it makes it very easy to win one of the next 2 to take the series.
You know, and Dan, you said it's early, and it is, and you don't want to make too much of any game, but every game matters. And you know, you say the game's in September, you're down by 1.
Go back to last year.
Of course.
Yeah.
And last day of the season, you look back at all the potential games you lost early on, and they come back and grab you. In fact, Chris Carpenter last year made a point on one of our post games very clearly. The games we've lost now early in the season, I hope they don't come back to haunt us the last week of the season.
Can't make them up. You know, it's victories in April, games you don't have to win in September.
Here's a 2-0 to Descalso. By the way, that's Travis Ishikawa, who has taken over in right field. The former San Francisco Giant can play first base as well. It was this time last year, that first week of the season, and the panic button had been hit. Kind of a famous Tony TV following one of the games, and he said it's the first week of the season. You guys might remember that.
Oh yeah. Well,
and Berkman was the guy that told everybody, hey, let's calm down a little bit. It's going to be all right.
But if we remember, there were some really ugly losses.
Yes, there were. Yes, there were.
Blown saves and things that, you know, was a learning process.
It's another walk issued to the Cardinals.
Pitch hitting for the pitcher, Mitchell Boggs. Number 13, Matt Carpenter.
Here's Matt Carpenter. Good to see him make the club. We've talked about his versatility this spring. That's what allowed him to make the club. The fact that he can play third base, first, or the outfield now, out of Galveston, Texas, where his dad is a high school coach. And this offseason, he worked out with his dad's team. Carpenter played at TCU and lifts it into right center field. That ball will get down all the way to the wall. Molina will score. Descalso being waved in. The throw to the plate is offline. 2 RBIs from Matt Carpenter. The Cardinals are pounding Milwaukee here in their home opener. It's 10-2.
Well, Carpenter was slated to return to Memphis, but the reason he is here is one is the versatility, the other is this, that he is driving the ball now. You know, he had a great batting average, he had on-base percentage, but they were just flares, they were quails. And now all of a sudden he's kind of that weight shift back, he's loading up on the backside, and he's exploding, and the ball is jumping off his bat in that extra base potential. And that's the reason why all of a sudden they love the way he plays. High energy, always hustling, and now he's becoming that more of that offensive force.
it's going to be important for him to be able to have at bats like this one coming off the bench. If you're going to be a part-time player that doesn't really get 4 at-bats every single game. You better get to the plate ready to go, and he certainly was ready in that at-bat, jumping on the first pitch.
That's outside, low and away.
Well, you're a little bit concerned with the inexperience or lack of power on that bench, but we saw last year we had that same scenario, and you know, like, what do we know about Alan Craig? What do we know about some of these other guys? And you know, they all kind of pan out, but you build on what you just did right there.
A deflated crowd here today. The second largest crowd in Miller Park history. 46,086 today. 46086. And a lot of those folks are disguised as seats right now. They're gone.
And the ones that are here are quiet.
Here's a 1-2 to Furcal. He hits it down the right field line. This could be trouble, and that ball is fair. It's off the wall. Furcal will dig for second. Back-to-back doubles. Carpenter scores to make it 11-2 St. Louis.
How important is it to see Rafael Furcal? He had 3 hits in opening day, 3 more hits here today. You know, his second RBI, doing the little things. After a tough spring training, this guy was one of the most exciting players when he first came up with Atlanta. Still doing the job defensively, but when he can get back to that offensive force that he was, then the Cardinals really do have something.
Cardinals have done some damage to the Brewers bullpen here this afternoon, not just getting to the starter Yovani Gallardo, gave up 7 hits in 3+ innings, but also touched up Parra a bit, and now Dillard here in the 9th, and again, that sets you up well for the rest of the series.
Eric Komatsu, who spent time in the Brewers organization, out of California, Rule 5 pickup. He makes the team, and Komatsu is a guy that, with this current regime, this is not to take anything away from Tony and his staff, but Al, you talked about it earlier. Younger players are going to get maybe a longer look in spring training. Komatsu, one of those guys.
You talk to McGuire, you talk to Mabry, you talk to the different guys, and they're really intrigued with Komatsu.
Here's a ground ball up the middle, backhanded by Weeks, and safe at first. It's a base hit. Komatsu gets the base hit.
His first major league hit in his first plate appearance. There's a souvenir, but his game is speed, and he just showed it right there. So they just threw the ball out. Matheny picked it up.
Those two right there played in the minor leagues together, Gamble and Komatsu.
Yeah, I asked him about that. He said Cameron Lowe, Gamble, a couple of guys that he played with in the minor leagues. Garth Orge, went over to say hello to Garth Orge, who Dane Orge's brother, and you know, big smile on his face seeing the organization he started with.
You know, in 2010, Komatsu was the Brewers minor league player of the year, and then was traded to Washington. A little confusion right now on the field, but he played in 93 games, Double-A, that's Huntsville for Milwaukee, and then he was traded to Washington for Jerry Hairston Jr. as you get a look at what the Cardinals have done last 3 games in Milwaukee, and that includes the postseason. 9 home runs, 35 runs. But he adds a element of speed to this team, does Komatsu, and he stands at first. Furcal is over at third. It's 11-2, but that is the Brewers minor league player of the year just 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, talking to some Cardinal front office folks about Komatsu, he really projects as being a good leadoff hitter eventually. Right. But he was such a good hitter in the minor leagues, he'd always bat third, so he doesn't really have that experience. But they like his knowledge of the strike zone, plays all the outfield positions, and really just getting a great opportunity here with St. Louis.
Yeah, he was telling me that he can play all 3 outfield positions. His natural positions are corners, left or right, but what you were saying, Rick, is that Mike Matheny told him, run. We've heard your game is speed. Go do it. You have the green light.
Not now, though.
Double play.
He made his first mistake.
Picks up his first major league hit, though. 11-2. It's all St. Louis. 11-16-0 for the Cardinals. 2-8-1 for Milwaukee as we move to the bottom of the ninth. And let's take a look at our Home Depot doing more on defense. And defense has been good, the pitching, and so it's added up with some timely hitting to some good plays.
Well, you got to get good jumps on balls, and then you got to have the foot speed to track it down. We said not only with nice plays there by John Jay, did so in Miami, but Cardinals are on the verge of completing their second game without an error.
Here's Kyle McClellan as Berkman is over, and one pitch, one out as Alex Gonzalez is hitless here in his Milwaukee debut. Kyle McClellan, outside of J.C. Romero, is the elder statesman now in that bullpen.
Yeah, and almost a kind of a strange twist of events for Kyle McClellan. A lot of talk in the offseason about a potential trade for McClellan, yet, you know, he has some valuable assets that he brings to the team, not only being the elder statesman you mentioned, but he can start, relief, pitch long, pitch short, and he's also pretty good against left-handed batters as well. So he provides you another opportunity. If Romero doesn't come through against lefties, you've got another option.
I might look back on it, and all the trade talk might have been the best thing for the Cardinals, that it was just talk and no action.
Some of those are the best deals you make, the ones you don't make.
There's no doubt he has good stuff.
Look at that. Nasty breaking ball on the 0-2. Strikeout a Gamble, but he reaches. I'm going to give you some names here, guys. I was talking with McClellan about still being with the Cardinals, and it's hard to believe, but he's beginning his 5th major league season now with St. Louis. And I said, well, you're the elder statesman. And he stopped for a second. He said, really? I said, well, outside J.C. Romero, yeah, you're the guy. He said, that's hard to believe. I said, well, who are the guys that were there when you were called up and made the team? Russ Springer, Jason Isringhausen, Ryan Franklin, Brad Thompson, Randy Flores, who's out of baseball right now, and Ron Ballone. Some veterans out there for Kyle to learn from. And the Cardinals, by the way, have made a move today. Scott Linebrink has been put on the disabled list, and he was signed. One of the reasons why is to be a veteran leader out in that bullpen. But Linebrink is out with a shoulder injury, and Victor Marte has been called up from AAA.
And Marte's no youngster. He's 31, but he had 31 saves to lead the Pacific Coast League last year.
Lucroy is hit with a breaking ball on an 0-2 pitch. Let's turn to our Budweiser player of the game, and it's David Freese with the 3-run homer back in the 3rd inning. And
we just thought he needed another award.
Yeah, why not? Off to a great start. Back with us again, Tom Mee, our director, Mike Helling, our producer, Keith O'Brien, Brian McCann, all working very hard round the clock down in the truck.
And I happen to know from talking to them that they've missed us terribly this offseason.
Gataris is the final position player coming off the bench, hitting right now.
Cesar Izturis is part of the bench this year for Milwaukee. He was announced but did not hit. Cardinals changed pitchers. He was announced and then pulled back, so essentially he was used. There's that big breaking ball again and blocked by Molina.
That's really the dominant pitch for McClellan when he's going good, Al. When his curveball is right.
It was great this spring.
And it was great this spring. And it's actually been good in this inning, too. The one that got away happened to hit Lucroy in the back. But when it's sharp, it really is an unhittable pitch.
It's like 12-6, and if you're gonna miss with it, do it like you did the last time and bounce it up there rather than hang it. But because of that breaking ball, it makes all of his other pitches that much better.
(3-2) is hit out of play.
Quite the chain, isn't it? Another indication of his length of service.
Exactly. The chains get thicker.
They get thicker.
In the air out to center field. Jay on the move. He'll look up, and this ball is a home run. Gutierrez, a 3-run homer off of Cal McClellan.
This ball had plenty to spare, and high fastball up there, and he just got on top of it and hits this ball a long, long way. John Jay traveling, but that ball almost got the second deck.
Makes it a 11-5 St. Louis lead.
And it's just one of those little things too, where you try to avoid having that late surge by the opposition, feeling like, okay, we're going to send a little message that you had us today, but we get you tomorrow.
Kind of a bad break inning for McClellan too, because he had the strikeout he wanted of Gamble. It was just such a good pitch. It got away from Molina. It would have been 2 outs, and he was 0-2 on Lucroy and just hits him, spins it, and so all of a sudden you go from having a good inning where you're really sharp and nasty to you got a 3 spot on the board.
Here's a 1-1 pitch to Weeks off the end of the bat. Breaking ball again. 1-2. Al takes part in the fantasy camp along with Rick Horton every year, and it's our first telecast. I know it was very special this year after the passing of a very good friend of all of ours, especially you two, and that's Bob Forsch.
Yeah, I miss Bob Forsch. He was such a big part of the Cardinal organization. Great friend, great teammate. And we honored Bob this year, Al, at the Cardinals Legends Camp down in Florida, and felt like it was important for us to do that, and we are going to miss him terribly.
Well, I'm one of the few guys that ever got to see Bob Forsch play third base. So that in the minor leagues, and we played together, you know, and that was an A ball, played together in Double A, and then later on in the big leagues. Saw him win his 20 game season in '77. Good man. Third on the all-time wins list for the Cardinals. Forget about that. Bob Gibson, Jess Haynes, and then Bob Forsch. And some of those teams that you played, you know, he kind of was that veteran guy that showed you some things about how to win and how to take, you know, change the course. Never forget about '87.
We changed the course all right with Jeff Leonard.
Yeah, the playoffs. Jeffrey Leonard, one flap down, had you guys on the ropes, and then Bob took it upon himself with a little plunky.
One flap down and one rib sore.
Matsu puts it away for out number 2. Weeks back to first. McClellan now has gotten hurt on a couple of pitches that have been up, hasn't he?
Yeah. Now you just want to keep Ryan Braun with a hitless game.
Agreed.
You know, he's an outstanding talent, and he's going to get his fair share of hits, but Cardinals would like to tell him that not today.
Not quite getting on top of that breaking ball now. For ball 1 to Ryan Braun, who was 0 for 4. He's lined out to short, fly to center, grounded out to second, and struck out swinging back in the 8th. The 1-0 is sky to center. Under it is John Jay, and the Cardinals are 2-0 under Mike Matheny. 11-5.
Very convincing victory. It was fun to watch the Cardinals come out and play.
Like to see the power that we saw today. Jaime Garcia picks up the victory, and Mike Matheny is now 2-0.
Coming up, we've got the post-game show. They'll be talking a lot about the long ball. Big factor in today's game. It got started with Yadier Molina. Beltran, he went deep as well. Cardinals had 3 in 1 inning. Matt Holliday, he would go deep. One more, there's David Freese. 11-5.
Well, the game is over with a Cardinal 11-5 win in Milwaukee. Cal Elder and I here to break it down. The first time this year on Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. Cal, your thoughts on another impressive victory, 2-0 for the Redbirds?
Well, you called it, Pat. You said the Cardinals are going 162-0, so they're 2-0 right now. But what we saw was Jaime Garcia probably not as good as he knows he can be, and we've seen him before, but tough enough to let his offense score enough runs, and they did via the long ball.
They certainly did. Adam Wainwright says you've got to try to win 162, right? More to come from Cal coming up, plus the Redbirds and the Brew Crew in an NLCS rematch for the first time in 15 occasions this year. We'll break down round number 1. Plus, Jaime Garcia has been dominant in April in his young career. We'll tell you if the lefty was right in Milwaukee. And we'll take you back to Milwaukee for Cardinal player reaction, Mike Matheny's post-game press conference, and yes, that sounds a little strange, and Cal's 4 questions for the 2012 Cardinals. Good Friday? How about Great Friday? Because Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live is coming up next.
Welcome to Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live.
Count them 4. 4 Cardinal home runs, 3 in 1 inning alone as the Redbirds power their way past the Brew Crew in Milwaukee. And it's 2-0 now for the Redbirds on the season. 11-5 the final this afternoon here on Fox Sports Midwest. And an opening weekend, well, it's underway for the Cardinals. Actually began Wednesday night and continues all weekend in Milwaukee, and has been a great start to 2012, just as 2011 ended so successfully. Hello, everybody, and welcome inside our Fox Sports Midwest studio in St. Louis. It's the post-game edition of Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live, alongside the first man out of our bullpen. That's Cal Eldred. I'm Pat Paris, and we're going to get to this jam-packed show for you. Coming up, we'll go back to Miller Park. Plenty of Cardinal reaction, including the first edition of Mic'd Up, Mike Matheny's post-game press conference. Plus, we'll look ahead to the 2012 campaign as Cal tells us about 4 big questions facing the Cardinals this season. Before we get to all that, Cal, this was a real exclamation point on the start to a weekend to let the Brewers know that the Cardinals may have lost a few guys, including Albert Pujols, but they're still very potent.
We're not going to give away one of the answers to one of our questions about certain first baseman, Pat, but I will tell you the offense came out with the middle of the lineup. That's who we expect to score a lot of runs, to get on base. But Furcal did it at the bottom of the order, the bench. Everybody contributed offensively today. That's a huge key for the Cardinals.
Certainly was. And don't forget, just like last season, the tweet is on. We want you to send your questions and comments via Twitter to @FSMidwest. We'll answer some of those throughout the post-game show, each and every one of the 150 that we'll have for you this season on Fox Sports Midwest. Let's get things started by heading right back to Milwaukee. Jim Hayes moments ago catching up with David Freese, our Mid-America Chevrolet Dealers player of the game. Cat?
2-run homer and an RBI single in this one for David Freese, and you guys start the season at 2-0, spoil the home opener for the Brewers. This one had 4 home runs and some good pitching from you guys.
Yeah, Jaime set the tone. They got a couple runs early, and then he put up some zeros, and we hit the ball a little bit today, and just like any series, it's good to get that first one.
Some ups and downs for you at spring training, but a hot start to the regular season. Does something change? Do you lock in more? What is it?
I don't know if there are any ups in spring training. No, I don't know. I mean, when those lights come on, you got to be ready to play, and so far so good.
So far so good is right. Early on in the season, a sense for how this team goes about it. It seems like it's still a pretty relaxed group.
Yeah, we're relaxed, but we're focused. We're loose, and veterans are, showing us how to go about it. And we're just trying to stay in the day and do our job.
Some would say you're a veteran now. Thanks, David.
No chance.
Thanks, man. David Freese, guys, we send it back to you.
All right, Cat, thank you very much. And the home runs began in the second inning when they were down 2-0, Cal. This was a big point in the game.
It was a big point because you want to go out as a pitcher and shut that team down after your team has just scored you some runs. That didn't happen for Gallardo.
Yeah, and Yadier Molina goes opposite fields. We see so many of his home runs go, and certainly he has been a huge part of this offense in recent years, and will be a big one this year.
And he comes up with the big hits, Pat. It always seems that way.
That's exactly right. And then the real barrage there in the third inning. 4 home runs you see for the Cardinals only happened 3 times in 2011, but how about a 3-homer inning? Enough with the solo shots. Eventually, there's going to be a 2-run shot by David Freese.
Well, and Gallardo, I think, got a little shaken. He started walking somebody, tried something different, but that didn't work out so well. But it was fastballs. It was a slider right there, a breaking ball that Matt Holliday goes down and gets. That was not necessarily a bad pitch. It's a bad pitch to Matt Holliday, though, because he likes that breaking ball that's down low in the zone.
Where he can reach down and he can really pull that ball and drive it with some power. And then there's the David Freese home run after a walk, finally, to get a base runner out.
Well, and David, he just keeps his shoulders in, keeps that left shoulder in, and throws his hands through. That pitch is elevated. He did exactly to that ball what he wanted to do.
And the home run ball can mean so much, especially when you have guys throughout the lineup that can hit it.
Yeah, exactly. Now you've got so many guys in the lineup that can hit it, can take the ball deep. But their secret is to stay within themselves. Lance Berkman talks about being an athlete in the batter's box, and to do that, you still have to stay under control.
All right, let's get back to Milwaukee one more time. Dan McLaughlin and Ricky Horton rejoin us now for a view from the booth. Guys, your thoughts on a terrific game today and a terrific start to the season?
It's been a great start to the season for Mike Matheny. We're going to hear from him with Jim Hayes momentarily, but the Cardinals jump out now 2-0 on the young season. You look at Game 1, the offense was there, the pitching was there from Kyle Loesch. Here in Game 2, you're wondering about Garcia being on the road this year. At times he was shaky, Rick, as we saw a year ago, but after a shaky first inning, he really settled in.
Well, Jaime Garcia was outstanding at home last year, but not so good on the road. But today he was good. Not as terrific, as you mentioned, as Kyle Loesch was in Game 1 this year. But Garcia got a bad start. He gave up a hit to Weeks, then a triple, a couple of runs. But after that, it was smooth sailing for Garcia. Not an outstanding start for him, but good enough to win. Certainly better than Gallardo's was on the other side. But just always good to get your starting pitchers off on the right foot to begin the season.
Then on the other side, you take a look at this lineup and hitting, and I know it's early. You're only 2 games in, but for these hitters, just to get those first RBIs, the first hits, the first home runs out of the way, that's big, isn't it?
Yeah, flexing the muscles a bit against, especially against a team like Milwaukee, who flexed a lot of muscle last year. They lost some of their muscle, as did we, but certainly there was plenty of it today. The Cardinal home runs, I think, was the most exciting thing from our point of view watching this game, and probably the most deflating thing for this huge crowd here in Milwaukee. They went dead silent after the Cardinals started hitting those home runs early on, and just really a fun game to be at. Great start, and we'll see if they can continue it tomorrow.
Gallardo was not very effective today for Milwaukee. He's now 1-8 in his career against St. Louis. Al will rejoin us momentarily. We'll take a look at Saturday and Sunday of the series. That's it for now. Let's send it back to you.
All right, great job, guys, and we'll check in a little later on here on Cardinals Live. Let's go to the highlights, Cal. Scoreless in the bottom of the first. They were just mentioning it. It's Ricky Weeks with a single, and then the ball smoked down the line. Matt Holliday has some trouble with it. Turns out to be a triple. Maybe it should have been a double and an error. It's a triple, and suddenly it's 2-0. But in the second inning, the Cardinals get this one back on the first pitch of the second inning.
Elevated fastball up and away. All you young guys playing the game of baseball and girls playing softball, when they elevate that ball up and away, drive that thing the other way. Don't try to pull it. It's fly ball to center field, Pat, but if you drive it the other way, the pitcher really provides the power. 9th home run against Milwaukee for Yadi, most of any other team. Still 2-1 top of the third, but Carlos Beltran leads off. He's swinging away on 3-0, and it's a good thing he did. That was a bomb. If you want to swing away with power and you have that kind of power, that pitch was up and away, and it went a long way. 718th
player to hit a home run wearing the birds on the bat. Matt Holliday's hit some home runs for the Cardinals before. Well, this one is a big one because he's got to get going right now.
He does, and I think you saw him continue to get at bats. Mike Matheny did not take him out later in the ball game. He just needs to see more pitches, but Matt most of the time does not miss those mistakes.
And so it's 3-2 after back-to-back home runs, and then after a walk, David Freese gets into the act and crushes this one. Third home run of the inning and fourth of the game, 5-2 Redbirds. That got out in a hurry.
I didn't know he could drive in runs, Pat, unless there were 2 outs. But there were none here, and he drives it in. So David Freese swinging a bat. That pitch was elevated again. Those pitches up, you get hurt.
Same score now, top of the fourth. Runners on first and third for Freese. Oh, yeah, he can do it with 2 outs here.
Oh, okay, I see that.
6-2 is for call scores. That'd do it for Gallardo. He was not very good today.
At times, he threw some very nasty pitches, but he made way too many mistakes against this lineup.
And then in the 6th inning, Lance Berkman up with Carlos Beltran on base, and Berkman smokes a double to the gap in right. Beltran will score. Having all these switch hitters at the top of the lineup really paying off for Mike Matheny.
And what they're able to do is add on. That's the thing. You can't just have one big inning and that's all you do. They continue to add on in the 6th.
And then pinch hitters, as you look one more time at Lance Berkman, kind of going the other way there for the double. Pinch hitters 3 for 3 today, including Komatsu, who got his first major league hit as well. And it ends up being a Cardinal, almost a laugher, 11-5. It was runs late, those 3 runs in the 9th inning, that makes the score look closer than it was as Kyle McClellan gives up a 3-run home run.
And it was really, Kyle McClellan strikes a guy out, the breaking ball, a nasty breaking ball in the dirt, as Ricky talked about during the ball game, gets away from Yadier, which doesn't happen very often. That guy gets on, then he hits LaCroix with 2 strikes, an 0-2 pitch with a breaking ball, and then does make a mistake up in the zone, and he ended up paying for it.
And the final will be 11-5 as the Cardinals go to 2-0, and we will talk more about this later. We don't want to give it, it's a spoiler alert. We don't want to give away one of your answers to your 4 questions that have to be answered for the Cardinals. But when you lost an Albert Pujols, that gave you the opportunity to pick up some offense somewhere, and it turned out to be Carlos Beltran. And I think that some around baseball thought, well, this 2-year deal, well, they're paying too much for Carlos Beltran. Maybe he's over the hill. It's only 2 games in, but Carlos Beltran has been an important part of 2 wins now for the Cardinals.
And there's a lot of reasons to maybe overpay a guy like Carlos Beltran, simply because of his experience, the type of player he is. He's a veteran. He can steal bases. He hits the ball out of the ballpark. Watching him in spring training, when he came in spring training, and just watching his pace as far as his workload, he just kept adding and adding and adding, and he kept getting in better shape. But he knows what he has to do. Therefore, he can help some of these young guys. But boy, he's still a force on the baseball field.
Well, he certainly is. And you wonder if he isn't going to be this year's version of Lance Berkman, because here's a couple of guys now, veterans who had quite a bit of success against the Cardinals, but their teams weren't necessarily able to always beat the Cardinals. So if you can't beat them, you join them.
Well, and he joins the Cardinals. Tim Trokey looking up stats. Who has he had success against? It seemed like everybody he looked up, he had a lot of success against. Carlos Beltran, obviously there's a lot of pitchers that do not want to see him in that batter's box.
Absolutely. And Kyle Loesch being one of the major ones that is glad that he's a teammate now.
That's right.
Instead of a guy he has to face on a regular basis. Still much more to come on Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. Just getting started. In fact, don't forget, Mic'd Up coming your way, as well as our King of the Hill, Mike Matheny's first time on Fox Sports with us behind the mic. Stay with us.
Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live is brought to you by Carrier. For all your heating and cooling needs, turn to the experts at CarrierComfortTeam.com. And by the Missouri Lottery. When you play, students win.
King of the Hill obviously goes to Jaime Garcia. Wasn't necessarily the most sharp we've seen him, but holding them to 2 runs over 6 innings, the Brewers in Milwaukee, that's a huge win for Jaime Garcia.
And it's better than the numbers that we showed in the pregame show that he's had in Milwaukee. But the key was he gave up 2 hits really early, gave up a couple quick runs, and then by getting that last out, a strikeout in the first inning, 9 out of the next 10, he retires.
That's what you do in order to stay in the game a little longer and hold down a Brewers lineup that maybe isn't certainly what it was, but it's, you know, a lot of the experts say this is the team that the Brewers are still the team to beat, along with the Cardinals and the Reds in the division. You and I were talking that we believe that it's a very strong lineup, but it isn't as intimidating as, say, the Cardinals lineup.
And we may mention a little bit about intimidating later on in those 4 questions, but I will say that without having Prince Fielder in that lineup, like we talked about in the pregame show, there just isn't that presence, that at-bat that you know you have to work through, and you're looking ahead in innings going, man, I don't want that guy to get to the plate. Now it's really Ryan Braun is the only guy you're looking at.
And you wonder how long the Brewers can go with batting Ricky Weeks up at the top of the lineup at this point, because they need somebody to maybe be right in front of Ryan Braun. I understand it's only a couple of back, but maybe he'd be better served being Weeks 3 and Braun 4.
You could do that. I also like seeing Weeks in the 2-hole if Aramis Ramirez is going to swing the bat like he did in Chicago at times. So that's something they can play with, or moving Weeks to the 4-hole.
Got to wonder if Aramis Ramirez, when he comes to the park that day, if he really wants to play all that hard on a particular day. Jaime Garcia pitched hard today and pitched fairly well today. And you look at what he's done in April, in his now beginning 3rd April as a starter in the majors, and it's pretty darn impressive with a 1.73 ERA.
The ERA, the wins, you know, those things take care of themselves, but he's had a lot of starts, and really extra base hits allowed only 7. He's first in everything. I mean, and he is sharp, and he had good numbers today, and I really don't think that what he had today as far as stuff was his best stuff. He did not use his breaking ball inside to the right-handers much, but he used his changeup. He got a lot of outs back and forth using the changeup and the fastball.
Well, up next here on Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live, we'll head back to Milwaukee. You will hear from the skipper, Mike Matheny. Still talking. We're waiting for him to get done so we can bring it to you. Flashing back to this date, 12 years ago, Mike Matheny's 3rd game wearing the Birds on the bat as a player in the Cardinals backstop was 3 for 4 with a home run, a double, and 2 RBIs. In his first 3 games with the Cardinals, Matheny 6 of 11 with a homer, 2 doubles, and 3 RBIs. Not a bad start to his Cardinal catching career, and certainly not a bad start to his managerial career. 2-0 for the Redbirds. Let's go inside the visiting manager's office at Miller Park. Cardinals skipper addressing the media a short time ago. Here's the first edition of Mic'd Up, brought to you by the Sheet Metal Workers, Local 36.
Kept it together, and that's an offense that can come out and do a lot to you. And then he really found his groove. But you know, things could have certainly gone a lot different right there in the first.
When he was scuffling, what was the issue?
Working behind the count, you know, and using more of the middle of the plate. I mean, he's a guy that just his movement's really what he maximizes, and that's what makes him effective. Is moving the ball to both sides. When he leaves up in the middle, this lineup's not going to miss a whole lot. But he started mixing it in a little bit better and found a better rhythm. And you know, he pitches ahead, it's a whole different ballgame for him. And that's what he did after the first.
As nice as it is to get 4 home runs in a game, just as nice to see production up and down the lineup. Same as Wednesday.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody get going. You know, for Matt to get that one, and you know, Yachty has been doing a great job. But you could go right down the lineup, and you saw some positive things offensively from all these guys. So, and even got some of the young guys in to get their feet wet and just kind of get a little bit of a feel for the game.
Is that surprising at all, though, especially that many home runs against their number 1 guy and home opening? And
We've had
16 hits, I think, overall.
Yeah, it's you'll take that whenever you can get it, and you know, the guys have really been working hard, and I don't think this is a home run conscious team. I mean, they just look at putting good pass on the ball, and you know, let Yachty's swing the other way, and Matt really getting on top of that low pitch. And getting the backspin. I mean, it's just good approaches. They had a good idea what they wanted to do, and then they executed.
A couple stolen bases as well. You've said that you'd like to incorporate a little bit more of the running game.
You know, when it fits, and we've got a couple guys that have a good history of being able to take a base in the right situation in the right count, and have good instincts with that. So we'll continue to be aggressive when it makes sense.
Mike, there's a lot of talk about Furcal in the spring, struggling. He's obviously turned that around real quick in 2 games here.
Yeah, and that's just you know, really a compliment to how hard he's worked. And he was fighting and fighting, but still, you know, it's funny because he got up one day in spring training and talked about trying to be the same guy every day. And when he was struggling, he stayed the same guy. He was in here and enjoyed putting the jersey on every day and just kept working, but he didn't hang his head, and now he's getting paid for all the work he's doing.
Is that a cool moment for you to see a guy like Komatsu get his first major league hit? I'm guessing that's something you probably remember your first one as well.
Yeah, you never forget that first one. So it was good to get him in there in a game, you know, still early in the season. And this guy's got an ability to come off the bench, just like you saw with Carpenter too, and even Robinson to have tough at bats. They really did a good job this spring. We got to use them a lot, see them a lot, get their confidence up, and but to see that first one, I know that's one that he won't forget, and most of us won't either.
Braun was 0 for 5 and Ramirez was 0 for 4. You guys did well approach-wise against those guys today.
Well, Braun hit a couple balls hard, so I mean you don't discount that. I mean he looks like his timing's pretty good. So you know they've got guys that are going to hit the ball, and they've got a powerful lineup. You just can't take a breather on it all, and we knew that going in. And unfortunately, Jaime found his rhythm and made the pitches that he had to in the middle of the game, and then the bullpen came in and did a nice job as well.
Box comes on with a couple guys on. He ends up with a double play, then another scoreless inning. To have him get off to a good start for his confidence, how much do you think that helps?
Yeah, and I think you can say that for everybody, but especially a guy who's you know had the season that he had last year and came in wanting to prove something. To have a good start and to kind of validate that the work that he's done and the adjustments that he's made in his game will work. To have that come to life out here, I think it was a big day for him. And you know what, he made some good pitches. I saw some good down action on everything, and he needs to keep believing in that.
Do you expect this rivalry to continue, or are you too young and too new to care about that kind of stuff, to enjoy that?
You know, good baseball teams, it's going to be a good rivalry. I mean, these guys are the defending champions of the National League Central last year and won a lot of games. And you know, this team got hot last year at the right time and really played well through the postseason. But we still, you know, remember very well how well Milwaukee played last year. So I think that's naturally going to make it a rivalry because just good hard baseball. And so I see that continuing.
And that's mic'd up. We'll talk more about Mike Matheny, and Cal will have his 4 questions facing the 2012 Redbirds coming up next.
Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live is brought to you by Acura Advance, and by Country Financial. What's your idea of financial security? And by Taco Bell. Live Más.
1 year ago, would you have believed me if I told you that the Cardinals would win without their best starting pitcher? Lost for the year before spring training even began? Would you have believed me if I told you that this team would win 30 of their final 43 games, stealing a spot in the playoffs on the season's final day? What if I told you that it wouldn't be Pujols or Holiday or Berkman who would send the Redbirds to the World Series, but the local kid, the longest of long shots? Would you have believed me if I told you that the Cardinals would be down to their last strike twice and find a way to win the greatest World Series game of all time? Well, they did all of these things, and against all odds, brought their fans a world championship. Would you believe me if I told you they would do it again in 2012?
Well, after an offseason of both glory and massive change, the Cardinals are ready to defend their World Series crown, but the 2012 squad will have a noticeably different look than its predecessor. Jim Hayes previews the upcoming season.
After 16 seasons, Tony La Russa will no longer be pulling the strings. Just 3 days after hoisting the Commissioner's Trophy, he shocked Cardinal Nation.
It's just time to do something else. And I know it, and I don't. You know, you got to look in the mirror, and I know if I came back, I'd come back for the wrong reasons, and I couldn't do that.
Cardinal Nation said goodbye to a manager who brought the team unprecedented success. And to replace Tony La Russa, the Cardinals decided to keep it in the family.
Today, we begin a new chapter for the St. Louis Cardinals and entrusting the managerial duties to Mike Matheny.
At 41 years old, Matheny will be the youngest manager in the majors, and he knows he's got some big challenges ahead.
There are too many to list and a lot more that I'm not even aware of. That's really why we're tapping into the great staff that I have that have been around and been doing this for a while.
Pitching coach Dave Duncan also departed, and as if losing a Hall of Fame manager and pitching coach isn't enough, the game's best player is no longer wearing the birds on the bat. Outside of losing Pujols, much of the core of the World Series champs remains in place.
Well, those guys you mentioned that we have lost are not guys that are easily replaced. I would say that they're probably irreplaceable. But, I mean, we have the talent coming back.
Berkman was selected to his 6th All-Star team last year and moves from right field to first base. In his place, another 6-time All-Star, Carlos Beltran, who the Cardinals signed to a 2-year deal.
Happy to be here. I think it's a great opportunity for me after what they accomplished last year as a team. As a player, I'm just looking for the opportunity to be in the playoffs, and I think this was a right fit for me.
Beyond the addition of Beltran, much of the roster looks the same. NLCS and World Series MVP David Freese will man the hot corner, and the Cardinals will have a full season from Rafael Furcal at shortstop. Tyler Green will get a shot to make second base his home.
Try to show, what I've been able to do in Memphis at this level. Really just trying to almost repeat that. I think if I can do that, things would be fun.
But perhaps the biggest addition to the Cardinals comes in the rotation. After missing the entire 2011 season, Adam Wainwright is back on the bump.
Everything has gone according to plan. My arm feels like it's supposed to. Feels like a normal arm. Feels like a good, strong, ready to pitch arm. There's no second thought in the back of my mind, will I be ready or this and that. It's go time for him.
Obviously, if he's at that elite level, he becomes one of the top pitchers in the league. And I think fans in St. Louis and the club should expect good things from him.
Unfortunately, while one ace returns, the other begins the season on the DL. Chris Carpenter is suffering from a bulging disc in his neck and will miss at least the first month of the season. He's joined on the DL by Skip Schumacher and Alan Craig. But all 3 players are expected to return, and after winning a title in 2011, the Cardinals have set high expectations for themselves in 2012.
If we could stay healthy, I feel like we have as good a chance this year to win it as we did last year.
You shouldn't be worried about this team at all. You look around in that clubhouse, and that's a winning team. That's a team that wants more than just the 2011 championship.
We got some pretty good guys, pretty good talent. Hopefully we can stay healthy, and if we stay healthy, we're gonna repeat.
And it's time for our Farmers Report Card. We look at the Cardinals, what they've done after winning the World Series. And, well, this is going to be a team that tries to do something that has never been done in Cardinal history, and that's win back-to-back World Series, despite the 11 that they now have, most, of course, in the National League. Cal Eldred is now standing up, so it's very important, so you should listen up. This is the time where we've been previewing this since about the 3rd inning today, I think. But seriously, it's the 4 questions that you have, I know, that have to be answered throughout the course of the season for the Cardinals to have a chance to repeat as world champions.
And being a former pitcher, Pat, I really think you got to start off with the first question being, can this starting rotation stay intact? What is going to happen with Wainwright? How many innings are you going to get from Adam Wainwright? And the big question really is, when are you going to get Chris Carpenter back? Are you going to get him back, and how will he be when he gets back? I really think that he will be back. Might be a month, might be 2 months, and he'll be back to his form when he comes back, that being Carpenter. Wainwright, you just got to watch his pitch count, make sure that the innings aren't too high, and I really believe that Adam Wainwright's going to be another elite pitcher back to his form before.
And maybe get that Cy Young that has eluded him, not because he didn't deserve it, because
Yes.
other guys also deserved it and he lost out on the voting. Your second question will involve the manager, the new manager, but let's take a look at Mike Matheny and where other managers in Cardinal history have done in their first season wearing the birds on the bat. And you see kind of a mixed bag of results. Some 90-win teams, which are very impressive. Some made the postseason, some didn't. Of course, early on, there weren't all these divisions and wild card to get through as well, so it was a little more difficult to make the postseason. But Mike Matheny, well, he's not been given the keys to an old clunker.
Right.
He's been given the keys to a pretty nice sports car.
So now we need to ask the question, what kind of manager is Mike Matheny going to be? There's lots of things that you got to look in here now. And first, he's intense, he's serious, he's very encouraging. You've heard that from the players. He's a positive guy. He's never going to quit. But also remember where he viewed the game. He viewed the game when he played from behind the plate. So he's always watching, always paying attention. And another thing we heard him say, he's going to depend on his coaching staff for a lot of assistance.
And hopefully he'll quickly forget anything that he accidentally picked up from us, because he could not pick up anything while being a Fox Sports Midwest analyst, anything that would help him in his career as a manager.
Well, yeah, and obviously he didn't, but I know for one thing, he should learn from what we're going to tell him. Right?
You're right about that. Let's talk about the big question, the 500-pound elephant in the room, and that's the absence of the biggest bat the Cardinals have had since Stan Musial.
Yeah, and that's the question. How in the world are you going to replace Albert Pujols? How are the Cardinals going to do that? And we saw some of it today. Beltran, Holiday, Berkman, Freese, Molina. 4 of those guys going deep today, hitting home runs. I mean, it's a situation where these guys have to do what Albert Pujols did by just writing his name in the lineup. That's the intimidation factor. That's something that if they can do this, they can continue to just put good at bat after good at bat. They're going to have that intimidation factor, which is what that lineup had with Albert. Now it's a situation, these guys can do that. But the other thing is, the bench is going to help.
Well, and the bench is your fourth question, and it really, should we worry about it? 2 games in, they're batting 1,000.
Well, they are batting 1,000. I mean, no matter what, they think this manager so far is a genius. Whoever he puts in gets a knock. But what can this bench contribute? Somebody that I think is a key factor in this is one of the coaches that is now on Mike Matheny's staff, that being Chris Maloney. He had Tony Cruz, Descalzo, Robinson, Green, Matt Carpenter in AAA, and Skip Schumacher. So these guys are going to be used in situations that they are going to be able to prosper. And one of the ways Mike Matheny depends on his coaching staff, he's going to talk to Chris Maloney and say, hey, is this the right move right here? Most of the time it's going to happen before the game, maybe during the game, but I think these guys are going to be able to contribute. And I know for a fact they've been working awful hard.
Yeah, they certainly have. That's the 4 questions that need to be answered for Cal Elder. We've got more things coming up on the post-game edition of Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live over the next week. Sunday, we're going to make our post-season picks. On Monday, we'll give out our preseason Cardinal Awards. On Tuesday, it'll be the NL Awards, so we'll get a look at the entire National League. Wednesday, Dr. Rick will have his prescription for success for the Redbirds. And then our best of the home opener coming up on Friday night. You will not want to miss that 1 week from today on Fox Sports Midwest. Right now, we're going to head back to Milwaukee one more time. Moments ago, Jim Hayes was able to go one-on-one with Mitchell Boggs. Jim?
Mitchell Boggs comes into this one in the 7th with a couple of guys on, no one out, to get out of the inning, a ground out, then a double play. You had to feel good about that.
Yeah, it's an 8-2 game right there. They got 2 guys on, top of the order coming up. Try to keep them from putting something together, and because that could become a different ball game. So I was able to make up pitches, get a couple ground balls, and able to get out of it. So it was nice.
2 scoreless innings for the game. With everything you've been through, some of the ups and downs, is it important to start with a clean slate and get off to a good start now as you have this season?
Well, I think everybody, whether it's the hitter, starting pitcher, bullpen guy, you want to get out there and get rolling, early and perform well. And you know, you're kind of nervous for that first game, kind of sitting on the edge waiting to get in there. So it was nice to get in there today and make some pitches and throw the ball well.
You've been through some injury situations as well. Health-wise, are you right where you want to be?
Yeah, I feel very good. I felt great, you know, all winter. Felt really good all spring training. I feel good now. So it's obviously a long season. We've got a little ways to go. So we can everybody in there. And yeah, it's not over yet. We can almost see the finish line, but everybody's going to work hard all year long and do the things we need to be successful.
Your familiarity with Derek Lilliquist from the minors, do you think that might help you kind of turn the page and make whatever adjustments needed to be made?
Well, he's a guy that, you know, has been there for me, you know, for a number of years. He was my first pitching coach in the minor league, so I certainly have a, you know, a comfort level with him and a guy that I know I can go to and trust in that's got my best interests at heart. So I don't see him being anything but, you know, an extreme positive for me.
Keep it up. Thanks for the time.
All right, you got it.
All right, we send it back to you guys.
Jim, thank you very much. We're going to continue here on Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live. We'll talk Carlos Beltran and hear from him when we continue on this post-game edition after the 11-5 victory over the Brewers in Milwaukee. Stay with us.
Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Love bacon? Try the new BLT Cheeseburger Combo right now at Jack in the Box for just $4.99 plus tax. And by Steel. Find a helpful servicing Steel dealer near you. Visit steeldealers.com.
First game on Fox Sports Midwest is a winner. Dan, Rick, and Al bring you the action.
And the pitch is driven into deep right field. Hart is back, looks up, and it's gone. It's a home run opposite field. Yadier Molina.
He looks in so much better shape. He's really taken more of a leadership role.
Swinging away on 3-0. Hits a high, towering drive right field, and this ball is gone. We're tied up. They turned him loose on 3-0, and it's 2-2.
All-star again last year.
Lined into left center field, and the Cardinals have the lead. Matt Holliday, as Beltran and Holliday go back-to-back, and it's 3-2 Redbirds. 3 solo home runs. Yanked down the left field line. How about another home run? Yes! The 4th of the afternoon. David Freese. This time it's a 2-run shot. 4 home runs for the Cardinals.
During the spring.
Berkman lines it into right center field, and that ball will get down. Beltran being waved in. And he will score to make it 7-2. Lance Berkman with a 2-out RBI double to make it 7-2 St. Louis.
And that brings us to our Subway winning box score for the Cardinals, and you see every one of the position players getting at least one hit. The offense really doing its job from the top to the bottom of the line.
As you mentioned, every pinch hitter comes in and gets a hit. That's just the way it's going to be this year, Pat.
And it should be if you can keep it up. And you mentioned the genius that Mike Matheny appears to be after just 2 games as the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. And 2 games for Carlos Beltran under his belt, and he is playing very well and hitting well. Also, let's get back now to Milwaukee. He spoke to the media just a few moments ago.
Well, I think as a team, we know that we can score runs. It will depend, you know, how healthy we stay through the season. You know, we believe in every single guy in the lineup, so today was a great game. I think, you know, we were able to go out there, put good at bats, and we got results. And at the same time, you know, we were able to get a few hits with guys in scoring position with 2 outs. Those are huge.
Carlos, you home run and you stole a base as well. Is that just an indication that your knee's healthy and you're feeling strong?
I feel good, you know, since I came to spring training. I always said that, you know, my knee feels fine. You know, I need to continue to, you know, to follow the program that I have and make sure that, you know, I come to the ballpark ready to play. You know, like I said, you know, today I feel great, and spring training I feel great, so I'm just looking forward to continue like that.
Carlos, it's new to you, obviously, but these guys have done really well against Gallardo historically. What do you think it is about these guys' approach to the team?
No idea, you know. I think Gallardo has a great staff. He's a guy that competes. Like I said, you know, when you miss early in the counts, you know, you have to come in. So I think always key for a pitcher is first pitch strike. And if you're not able to do that, then you're gonna have trouble. So I think today he was missing spot, and we put ourselves in good hitters count, and we were able to get a pitch that we were looking for.
Carlos, you think a big part of that was how many pitches you guys saw from him in the first inning, and just kind of how deep into the counts you guys got? You got into 3-2 right away.
It's always important, the first time around, we kind of go out there, making sure that we see what the guy has. But sometimes, we approach guys differently. Sometimes we're going to be aggressive, sometimes we're going to be patient. Today was one of those days where, like I said, he fall behind, and we put ourselves in hitters count.
And from Carlos Beltran, how about the tweet is on? Loves seeing versatility at the top of the lineup, and that's from Julie MCQ on Twitter, and we appreciate everybody who's been tweeting at us because the tweet is on. And that brings us to our Don Brown deal of the game, Cal. Talking about the versatility of the lineup with all those switch hitters up there, it's got to be something that other managers are already starting to dread looking at the lineup card for Mike Matheny.
Yeah, and you're going to look at that as an opposing manager and say, which guy do I have down in the bullpen that can get right-handers and left-handers out? Do I want Carlos Beltran hitting right-handed or left-handed? Lance Berkman, and the one guy in the middle of that for Call, Beltran, Holiday, and Berkman, the only guy that's not, he's a three-hole hitter, Pat.
Exactly right. And we're looking at the sixth inning tonight, where the switch hitters all got involved. The inning began with the single. Unfortunately, Rafael Furcal tried to stretch that into a double, but it didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out. He was able to. You can't fault his hustle there at all. And you're looking at, oh no, now he could be at third base, or maybe he scores on that play. But the aggressiveness you like. Beltran comes back, gets a base hit, then Berkman able to drive a ball into the gap. Great piece of hitting, and obviously Carlos feels good. He scores all the way from first base on that double in the gap. But now you've got a situation where the game was 6-2, Pat. It's a grand slam away from being tied. And if you're a manager in the big leagues, no question that is what you're thinking. This can be tied. Those guys added on.
Well, it makes you, when you bring in the lefty, makes the guys go to the other side of the plate, and you wonder if that's a good move, and you just have to, if you're those guys up there for Call, Beltran, Berkman, you have to deliver in that situation.
And in the sixth inning, are you going to burn 2 or maybe 3 pitchers in that scenario to get a right-hander against Holiday and then switch Berkman over to the right side and burn a left-hander? It's an awful tough situation. Good Don Brown deal today.
It certainly was. Good job by Jaime Garcia taking advantage of the Brewers lineup and making sure, because he's a lefty, that their lefties were on the bench to come in and pinch hit. Let's get back to Milwaukee now. Jaime speaking with our Jim Hayes and the rest of the media just a short time ago.
You know what? I was able to bounce back after that first inning. A little tough after the first 3 hitters got on base, but I think I did a pretty good job on just basically forgetting about what happened there and just going to the next pitch, next batter. But it's just tough to do against their lineup, this place. But I'm glad I was able to bounce back.
What were the adjustments that you made to get through the run?
Just basically just trying to stay within myself. Then get too excited and try to keep my mechanics together and just keep attacking the zone. The strike zone. And I think I did a pretty good job on that.
I mean, was there anything in particular that you think you kind of hit upon to keep that inning, and then later on keep other innings from kind of unraveling on you? I mean, was it just able to kind of maybe keep your cool, or was it something Yadi said? Was there anything that you can kind of
yeah, talking to Yadi, he said a little bit, and then Lillian mentioned something too. But I think if I had to say something about today is, I think it's just part of the experience you get. You get in a situation like that and being able to stay in the game and forget about what happened the batter before, the inning before. Now you're gonna go get the next guy, and sometimes I think that's what any pitcher wants to do every time you go out there, because most of the time, sometimes it's not gonna go your way, but being able to block those things and go get the next guy, that's what you want to do every single time. So I was able to do that today. It worked out, and I'll take it. I'll take the W.
blocking it out as a challenge mentally. How do you do that? How are you able to put something in the past and not think about it and focus on the next bit?
Well, it's just part of the experience. You know, I think the only way you learn that and you get better at that is just going through struggles and going through those things, and then having a great group of guys that I'm learning from them. You know, like Adam and then Kyle. You know, you just watch those guys the way they go about the business, and you learn from that, and personal experience too. So that's I feel like there's no other way to learn but going through those struggles.
The run support that you got, that also helped you settle down, kind of settle in.
Yeah, I was. You know, our offense is unbelievable. The guys have been doing an amazing job. So when you go up 2 runs and then your offense comes back and scores 4, and then only 3, you feel like you wanna be there for your team. Everybody's doing an amazing job. So I was just trying to keep us in the game, trying to go out there and give us a chance.
So coming up, Mike Matheny giving a lineup card to one of the young players. Which one? We will tell you as Missouri Lottery Cardinals Live continues after this. Eric Komatsu, the Rule 5 pickup, with his first major league hit. It's an infield single, and he'll remember that one. Probably remember it's a lot harder hit than it really was. Let's get back to Milwaukee and hear from the young Cardinal outfielder.
Special moment. You know, I went up there, you know, my heart was racing, and I could barely feel my hands, and the bat felt, you know, weightless, but you know, it was special, you know, get that first one out of the way.
When you're standing there at first base, what's the first thing that crossed your mind? Do you remember?
Wow. Yeah, you know, I was just in a daze, really. As you saw, I got picked off on the next play, so, you know, I don't know, it's special.
They get you the ball?
Not yet. Someone's hiding it. I don't know.
Usually they'll torment you with it.
Yeah.
I did see someone throw it in there.
Yeah.
I think you'll get it.
Hopefully.
When they call you to go out there, I mean, you knew it was coming at some point once you're on the team. Is that when the heart starts racing?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a rushed, hey, you know, grab a bat, you're hitting. And, you know, I was ready, you know, a couple innings before, just, you know, taking some swings in the cage and stuff. But, you know, just getting that call, you know, hey, grab a bat, it was, you know, okay, it's go time. This is what I worked my whole life for. And it was fun to get that first hit, first AB, so.
You've been with these guys. It seems like they're the kind of guys that will make you feel welcome and comfortable, right?
Oh, definitely. Awesome. I said that from day one. I stepped in the clubhouse, and, you know, we have a lot of superstar veterans, and they just made me feel right at home, like I was one of the guys, you know, part of the team. So, you know, I'm glad to be here.
What are the plans for the ball? Do you know? Have you thought about it? You, family?
I'll probably give it to my mom and dad. You know, I think that'll be special for them. My dad especially, you know, he's been kind of just my biggest coach throughout the years, so, you know, I'll probably give it to them.
Got the lineup card for Mike Matheny today. It's a nice thrill for the youngsters. Season premiere of Fox Saturday Baseball comes your way tomorrow. Cardinals and Brewers again scoring off in Milwaukee. Coverage gets underway at 2:30 with the MLB on Fox pregame show. And at 3, it's Adam Wainwright making his return to the mound as the Cardinals take on the Brewers. Dan and Al rejoin us now for a preview of tomorrow's game, guys.
Well, thank you very much. We look ahead now to games number 2 and 3 of this series. Great matchup, Al, tomorrow with Wainwright and Greinke.
You know, outstanding matchup there. And, of course, all Cardinal fans are looking forward to seeing the return of Adam Wainwright. Threw very well in spring training. We expect that to continue. But, you know, Dan, I'm looking forward to seeing Lance Lynn on Sunday.
Yeah, that'll be our next local telecast on Fox Sports Midwest. Everybody would love to see Chris Carpenter make a start, but instead it is Lance Lynn, so we'll see him on Sunday. And again, Cardinals off to a great start, Al.
Great start, and it all starts with starting pitching. They got good pitching first 2 games of the series, plenty of hitting. If you want to be a naysayer, they left 20 on in the first 2 games. But so what? They've scored 15 runs.
Cardinals are 2-0 again. Tomorrow it's on Big Fox, and then we're back at it Sunday afternoon, Easter Sunday. We hope we're part of your Easter Sunday. For Al and Rick, I'm Dan, our entire crew. Let's send it back to you.
Guys, thank you very much. And a closer look at tomorrow's starters on Fox Saturday Baseball. It's the Cardinals getting that familiar face in Zach Greinke. Including the postseason, they saw the righty 5 times last year. He had a 3-2 record with a 4.26 ERA against the Redbirds, so kind of a mixed bag for him. Wainwright will be making his first starts in September of 2010. Waito chatting with Jim Hayes before today's ball game. Jim?
The process worked, and that I'm, still a polished major league pitcher to go out there and help this team to win a game. It's a long process, Tommy John, and I don't recommend it to anyone, but I went through it and I feel like I'm better for it.
Well, and here is a look at Adam Wainwright and his comeback, and you see where he ranks with his 2009 and 2010 numbers, and it's no surprise that he ranks among the top 3 in all those categories because he did so in those 2 years that he almost won the Cy Young.
Those are Cy Young Award-winning numbers, I would say, Pat, and we should be saying two Cy Young Award winners are going at it tomorrow.
Absolutely right. It's Zach Greinke, who struggled in his last outing in the spring, and Adam Wainwright, who also had only even rough spot in his spring was his last start, but then he threw a side session, and certainly his spring numbers alleviate a lot of the fears, but he also cautioned, and you've been cautioning since last year at this time, just because he comes back in the first week of the season doesn't mean he's going to be the ace of the staff right away.
Well, he understands that until he gets back to being 100%, Chris Carpenter would be considered the ace of this staff. And Adam Wainwright, you saw it in his eyes when he said, Tommy John is a long process. Yes, it is. I've been through it myself, but he was an elite pitcher at the top of his game when it happened to him, and he is also an accomplished, polished big league pitcher, and we'll see that soon.
And we'll look forward to seeing that as it develops and unfolds, and look forward to tomorrow's start against Greinke as well on Fox Saturday Baseball. David Freese, what a terrific start to the season he's had. We'll wrap things up next. Opening weekend for the Cardinals, starting off well as they take the first game against the Brewers in Milwaukee, spoiling the Brewers season opener. 11-5 the final, 4 home runs by the Cardinals. Cal, it is final take time, and final take time means the Cardinals have a win and you get to wrap it all up.
And what I'll say is let's go for 162-0. Pat, you mentioned it in the pregame. Somebody yelled it while the manager was doing his interview. Let's go for it.
Absolutely right. Too many long balls, though. They're just too reliant on the home run. We're kidding.
16 hits.
We're kidding. Keep up with the long balls. Look forward to the game tomorrow on Big Fox. We'll see you on Sunday, 12:30 with the Cardinals Live pregame. Have a great weekend, everyone.